What's up, Sifters? It's Saturday night, a rare weekend episode of GameFace coming at you. It's been a bit of a mad scramble trying to get the show going again. As you guys all know, I had a really, really horrible thing happen in my family in the last couple weeks. There's going to be a really good episode of Geif coming up. It's going to be really heavy, and I'll forewarn people right off the top that they may want to bail out, but I'll be talking a lot about kind of what I've been going through over the last couple weeks in the episode and kind of what it's like to have something like that happen and then have to try to get back into normal life and start consuming like pop culture media again. I mean, just kind of as a preface of the whole thing, you know, everything seems really vapid and silly and pointless when something like this happens. And so it was kind of a process for me to get back to a place where I even wanted to play games or watch movies or watch sports or anything like that. So I'll be talking about that in Geif in an episode here really soon. So I don't want to get into it too much here. I will say it's been really tough, but I really, really appreciate the support that you guys have given me over the last 3 weeks. Everyone's been amazing. The patience that you guys have had. You know, I don't feel good about us not having content on the site regardless of what happened. I feel like, you know, that isn't something that you guys should have to deal with. You know, my personal life isn't something that should affect a product that you have paid money for. And I regret that that's kind of what happened, but I was just kind of put in a place where there was no other options. So I really appreciate your patience. I really appreciate all the words of support, both on Sifted and on social media. People have been amazing. I know it's hard. People don't even know what to say because something like this just doesn't happen to most people. And I know it's really awkward for a lot of people. Some people are like, well, maybe I shouldn't say anything. So I really appreciate the people who are brave enough to reach out and say something and offer words of condolences. It really, really means a lot to me and my family for that matter. A lot of people from my family were on Sifted reading a lot of the stuff that you guys wrote, and they also appreciate it. So on behalf of them, thank you. On behalf of me, thank you very much. I feel like now things should start rolling along. I feel like I've at least got over the hump. I mean, I don't know if I'll ever be over this, to be honest. I
would think not. I
mean, I think I'll probably be different for the rest of my life. I'm trying to channel it into something good. I think what I've found is that I always feel like, what would they think about what I'm doing now? Mm-hmm. Like every minute of the day, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, if they're watching me right now, like, would they think I'm doing the right thing? Am I being productive? Am I living up to the legacy? And you know, all that type of stuff. So it's a crazy head trip. I would not wish this on my worst of worst enemies. I would never wish this on anybody. But again, thank you so much for all your support over the last couple of weeks. I really appreciate it. We should be good with GameFace going forward, provided I don't have a nervous breakdown at some point. I think I've gotten over that hump. Like, I don't think I'm going to be committed at this point. So I think we're going to be good going forward, and we got to keep rocking with GameFace. Lots of game evals coming up really soon. We have a great show for you tonight. One of the really bad things is that all this happened like just as Q4 kicks off. There's all these games that are coming out right now, and so we've been playing a bit of catch up. I had just sat down and started writing the review for Forza Horizon 3, for example. Just think about that. Like, and then the phone call comes that, you know, and it's vehicle related, and then I came back and I was like, man, I should just try to crank this review out, and like I just could not bring myself to write about racing. I just couldn't, you know, it was really hard. So getting over mental hurdles, emotional hurdles, and doing the best I can. So again, thank you for your patience. But we do have an awesome show and a bunch of stuff to talk about right off the top. Matt, yesterday it was announced Xbox One #1 in the United States for 3 months in a row now. The first month we kind of wrote it off because we were like, oh, that was the launch of Xbox One S. It's going to re-energize the fan base. Maybe.
And Xbox Ones had been discounted heavily.
Yeah. And, you know, Pactor on the last episode, someone asked him, you know, is Xbox making a comeback? And he basically said, no, you know, it's just this flash in the pan because of the new hardware. Now I'm not so sure. Because
I don't know what they're buying for it, but...
Well, I mean, if you look at it, though, Matt, this is 2 Q4s in a row. The PlayStation 4 has been abysmal. Mm-hmm. I saw a billboard yesterday for The Last Guardian, by the way.
Yeah,
and
I saw that.
My heart went, kaboom, kaboom. I mean, it's coming. There's no delays now, people. There are billboards in L.A. of The Last Guardian.
On the 10, you can see it.
Which is mind-blowing.
I never would have thought that would be pushed like that
the only
months
reason,
out.
The only reason it's being pushed that way is because it's all they've got. And I think,
especially now that Gravity Rush 2 slipped.
Yeah, and I think people are starting to realize...
That's it.
Like, hey, maybe the Xbox isn't so bad. At least they're putting out games on a regular schedule. I mean, we're going to get to Gears of War 4 here in the show. We're going to talk about it at length. But there's another Gears game out, a new one that looks better than the old ones. It's for new hardware. There are people who still love Gears of War who maybe bought a PlayStation 4. Maybe they're jumping over. And then, the other part of it, too, is that, the PlayStation 4 Slim came out during this period. So, you're saying, oh, well, it's the hardware refresh with Xbox One S. Well, PlayStation 4 had a hardware refresh in here. And it's still Xbox One. I mean, do you think that this is a turning of the tide?
No.
No.
Why? I think this is mainly because A, people are holding off for PlayStation Pro, and B, I think a lot of the people buying the Xbox One now are people that already have a PS4.
You think so?
And are kind of finally saying like, all right,
because, get the second console.
Well, especially
now.
like you say, like if you're a PlayStation 4 only owner, you're looking at the holiday season, you're like, what am I going to play?
Yeah.
So it kind of makes, with Forza Horizon 3 doing really well and Gears of War 4 turning out well, coming out strong.
Yeah.
It seems to make sense, especially for the low prices you can get for the original models now.
Yeah.
And the quality of the S, and it has the 4K Blu-ray in it, which you don't get with the PlayStation 4 Pro. So that helps. Kind of justify that purchase if you're someone who cares about that.
Yeah.
So I think it's just sort of this confluence of hardware events, and maybe a lot of PlayStation 4 people are kind of the Slim is sort of there for the future more than right now.
Yeah.
I think it's more if you're going to buy a PlayStation 4 next year, you're going to decide between the Pro or the Slim, depending on how much money you want to spend on that.
I mean, looking at the angle that you just kind of took with, the old models are discounted, you're kind of seeing that with the PlayStation 4 as well, though, with the slimmer version of that coming out. So
yeah. I don't think we'd see as much jump in the Xbox sales if the Scorpio was also coming out in a month.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, a lot of people probably are waiting. They're like, why buy a base PS4 right now when in a month I can get the PS4 Pro, which I just pre-ordered, by the way. I'm really excited about that.
I have that pre-ordered, and then you run into the issue of how many people know that's actually coming, and do enough people know about the Pro to impact console sales to the point that Xbox would rule them for 3 months. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we have answers to that one way or the other, but I remain skeptical that the Xbox is somehow suddenly going to close the gap anytime soon.
Let me ask you this.
But stranger things have happened.
For sure. I mean, if you look at last generation, it was kind of in reverse. Xbox 360 comes out of the gate really strong. PlayStation 3 just slowly keeps creeping up to it and almost caught up to it by the end, in all honesty.
I think it did surpass the 360 by the
maybe
very
worldwide,
end of sales worldwide.
And you're adding in Japan and Europe and all that.
I think it did surpass 360, and it may have surpassed the Wii, but I'm not sure.
I don't think that's possible.
I don't know if that's... I don't know. I remember definitely reading stuff about how it had beaten, in the end, worldwide, end of generation, full stop, we don't make these consoles anymore. The PlayStation 3 sold marginally more than the 360.
So do you think this is over now? Do you think once in November, when PlayStation 4 Pro comes out, do you think October may be the last month that Xbox kind of wins a month?
Maybe, but at the same time, if you're buying a Pro, what are you buying with? I mean, I know there's a lot of people, I've seen on enthusiast forums and Twitter and stuff that are basically saying, I haven't bought or haven't played anything on my PlayStation 4 in a month because I'm waiting for the Pro so I can play.
Yeah.
People are waiting on Rise of the Tomb Raider and Mafia 3. Don't do that. Don't wait on Mafia 3. Mafia 3 is not in the show today, but I have some thoughts. We'll get to that next week, probably.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was my fault, Matt. For some reason, my mind is mush. By the way,
Yeah.
I forget things, and I'm always distracted right now, kind of working through all this. And Matt had told me that he played Mafia 3 a ton, and when I asked him what he had played, and for some reason, I never even read it, and so we did not put it in the show for today. So I apologize. We will talk about it next week. By then, our game eval will be up too. We have a freelancer working on that, Matt Cabral. And we should have our game eval up soon.
If you haven't bought Mafia 3 yet, do not. I'll leave it there, and we'll come back to it.
It's the Crib Notes version of what we're going to talk about next week. Yeah.
But I've seen a lot of people are saying like, they're some of them are buying the current releases, some of them are holding off, but a lot of them are saying like, I'm not playing this until the PlayStation 4 Pro, where I can play it in Pro mode and it'll look better and run better or whatever. So maybe that'll be a factor. I feel like maybe the Xbox might have a lock on this stuff until February.
Really?
Because I think February, a lot of people are going to go out and get that Pro to play Horizon and Persona and all the stuff that's coming. I mean, I don't think Persona 5 has a Pro mode or anything, but I think February is going to be a big jump-in point for the PlayStation 4 because that month is packed with some of the best stuff. And so
I mean, that's because it looks like an amazing month.
Yeah,
so February is turning into like the new November. It's awesome. It's my birthday month, which is great. The timing couldn't be any better. So
I'm hoping, and For Honor and all that stuff. So I'm thinking February might be a big jump into this generation month.
Yeah.
And I think if you're looking at that month, Horizon's going to tempt a lot of people to the PlayStation 4 Pro. So
I have to admit, I am shocked over this. I never would have guessed, no matter what, that Xbox One would outsell PlayStation 4 3 months in a row.
I wouldn't have
no
thought
matter what.
there'd be a huge draw.
Like, even if you talked to me 6 months ago and you told me, hey, the slimmer model's coming with HDR and Ultra HD Blu-ray, I still would have said, okay, maybe they win a month. Never 3. I never would have ever thought that they would win 3 months in a row. So kudos to Microsoft.
Yeah.
I mean, I admire...
I don't really get it or why it happened, but hey...
I admire Microsoft because, it could have just kind of put its tail between its legs and said, let's start working towards the Scorpio or whatever. But I think all its pre-planning is kind of paying off now. It's making sure that it has games in every quarter. And that's something that Sony's been really bad at. Like, its first-party output has been really poor. It's been sporadic.
And it is kind of nice to see, Microsoft had a super strong second-party, I guess you'd call it, lineup of developers. They had, go-to developers, go-to franchises, and a lot of that dissolved near the end of the 360's life and the beginning of the Xbox One, where they felt like Matrick and those guys really shifted the focus to be more of a multimedia box, right? The set-top box dream rather than it's a video game system first and it does all these other things second, which is how Sony positioned the PlayStation 4 more. And I think you're finally starting to see Microsoft recover from that stumble.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Forza Horizon 3 and Gears 4 are pretty good recoveries.
They are, for sure. So we'll see.
I can't say people are wrong for wanting to play them on a new console.
Microsoft's got to be really encouraged going into Q4 with this momentum, though. I mean, this was pretty much do or die for Xbox One this last 6 months.
This is certainly best case scenario for them in every imaginable way, I would think.
Without a doubt. So,
but maybe bodes well for the Scorpio.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it appears people are not waiting for Scorpio,
though.
Or maybe it bodes poorly for Scorpio.
Well, I don't know, but I think at the very least it proves that people have not given up on the Xbox brand.
Yeah, for sure. So while we've been gone and I was missing, somebody else was missing too. And that was
stashed in a cupboard somewhere.
That was Palmer Luckey, who's just completely gone AWOL, MIA. Oculus had its big Oculus Connect event, a once-a-year event, its flagship tentpole event, where they make all their big announcements, show all their new tech, show off the final touch controllers, announce the touch controller release date and price. Ugh, price is crazy. We'd kind of been tipped off to that already. It's still, hearing it said, is like, wow, that's a lot of money just for controllers.
And they are good controllers.
They are. Yeah, they're amazing.
That's a lot of money.
It is, yeah. I mean, you probably will be able to get like an old Xbox One or an old PlayStation 4 for $200 now. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of money to spend on controllers.
Give it a year, you'll be able to pay for a used PlayStation VR for that much.
Yeah. And so they have this huge event once a year, and what happens? Palmer Luckey is nowhere to be found. And then I love this article that popped up on Kotaku. Kotaku actually went out and tried to find him at Oculus Connect and could not find him, and actually did real investigative journalism and was basically hounding people, going up to people and saying, hey, where's Palmer Luckey? Is he coming? Is he going to be here? Do you have a quote on Palmer Luckey? And pretty much everyone at Oculus was like, no.
Nope.
No.
And the CEO said they had to go find his mom,
yeah.
which was amazing.
I've never seen anything like this, Matt, where the head of a major company just flat out disappears and doesn't step down, isn't forced out by the board.
I mean, I think that might be coming, but don't don't get caught funneling money to a white supremacist organization. Seems to be the lesson here.
Yeah,
or,
I don't even think, it's not so much as political beliefs, or that
it's not political beliefs, it's the fact that it was a white supremacist... Subterfuge, white supremacist spam organization that wanted to put billboard memes up. It was, if you read about that company, it's very weird.
Yeah, Lucky also seems like a sucker to invest in something like that.
Well, to be fair, he has so much money that it's like...
It doesn't matter.
You can make a few losing bets when you've got that much cash.
Is he a billionaire?
Yeah, I think.
Did he get $1 billion from the
Either
sale?
he's a billionaire or he's like 900 millionaire.
Yeah.
He's real close.
He never has to work again.
No, he's fine. He can disappear as long as he wants, frankly.
Yeah.
But Facebook, and of course, you wonder if there's internal conflict with Facebook, because Facebook, remember, at one point, some of the higher ups at Facebook were arguing over whether they could completely remove all Trump discussion from Facebook. They are clearly not in the same political realm as Lucky, who claims he's more of a libertarian. Right? He's a Gary Johnson supporter, he says.
Do you believe that?
It's
irrelevant,
their policies are, in some ways, Johnson's policies are worse. He wants to. Trump doesn't want to raise the minimum wage. Johnson wants to abolish it. Oh. So it's like, it's not a winning combination.
Yeah.
But I don't care. I guarantee you, I own games by people with abhorrent political philosophies.
Oh, yeah. You don't. Here's
all
the
up
thing.
and down my Steam library. There's no way. There's
Here's
no
the
way
thing.
to know.
You don't know these
No.
people. You don't know. That's why I always have an issue with people romanticizing video game developers and thinking that just intrinsically video game developers are amazing because they make amazing games. That means they're great people.
No,
it's not like that.
They're not all great people. Ken Levine is great.
Yeah.
But
there are a lot.
There are a lot of great people in the industry.
But there are just as many that aren't.
Yeah.
And I think,
and believe me, this election season, I have run into many of them on Facebook, and it's interesting. It's interesting to see, and it's funny to kind of sometimes look at these games and be like, so the guy who directed that is interesting.
Yeah,
it's like,
It is kind of interesting to watch.
But again, it's not something it's not something I try to make my purchasing or what I enjoy decisions
All
on.
I care about is if the game's good.
God knows what Michael Jackson was doing with young boys. I have no idea what the truth is there, but all I know is that Thriller is amazing.
It really is, yeah.
And not to kind of give weird abusers or whatever or horrible people a pass on that kind of thing because they make great art, but at some point you have to just say hey,
you can't research everybody.
You can't be omniscient about that stuff. You just make the decisions and as best you can.
Do you think Lucky will stick around? Do you think he's going to step down?
I don't even. I would have thought he'd have done that by now.
Yeah, I don't think he is.
Unless I don't think he will. I think he would have by now, or Facebook would have forced him out.
Yeah.
Unless there's some kind of massive legal thing where they have to extricate him somehow from the stock options or whatever. I don't know what the rules are in that or what the process would be. But I can guarantee. I bet he won't be doing any keynotes anytime soon until they have a couple of meetings.
Yeah. Well, I think they probably already had a bunch
few
of those.
meetings. Yeah. I'm glad I bought a Vive. In that regard, although I understand the argument. It's like you don't want to. There's a lot of great people working on the Rift, and you don't want to punish them for the actions of one stupid guy at the top of the pyramid.
Yeah.
But that's kind of all the more reason to get rid of him. He's made his money. He's fine.
Yeah,
the guy working on the redesigning the headset strap for the next generation Rift, he's got to feed some family back home. But
Palmer
Lucky's okay. Palmer Lucky can go do whatever he wants to do anywhere in the world for the rest of his life.
He also came from money in the first place, so even if this never would have happened, I have a feeling he probably would have been okay.
Yeah.
So.
And then, of course, you compound that with the whole lawsuit thing happening with Carmack and ZeniMax saying Vivendi and all those guys saying he stole the tech for and all that. It's which seems far fetched to me, but you still got to fight it. It's still a thing you got to deal with.
Does it seem all that far fetched? I mean, Carmack's a genius. There's no denying that.
But is there anything? I mean, well, that's the kind of thing. Is Carmack's a genius? It's not like VR was invented while he was at ZeniMax or whatever. So it's like, are you really going to claim that John Carmack needed something that was in the Bethesda office to invent the thing he invented? Because I feel like John Carmack is, he's got the closest thing.
He also didn't invent it. He went into Oculus and fixed the Oculus.
Fixed a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's it's look, John Carmack had probably done that with 2 tin cans in a cave if it really got down to it. I mean, the dude is beyond any of us in most respects in terms of that stuff. So,
I just find it hard to believe that ZeniMax would... Because, look, corporate lawsuits are crazy expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking like tens of millions of dollars just in like lawyers' fees. So I find it hard to believe that they would go forward with a case where they're looking to lay out that type of money if they didn't feel like they had at least fairly significant...
Well, especially if it gets dismissed, especially if it's dismissed as frivolous, they have to pay all the fees of the defense. They have to pay
Oculus's lawyers, yeah.
So that would be a very expensive mistake. So they must have something.
Yeah.
But... Oculus is just sort of beset on all sides, and then you factor in that apparently they're not selling anywhere near as many as the Vive is in the first place.
Yeah.
And I wonder...
PlayStation VR that just came out.
I wonder if we're, is this the Intellivision of the three? Is this,
Well, it'd be more the ColecoVision, I guess. ColecoVision was the better of the three, so I guess Intellivision's right, yeah.
Intellivision was sort of that, like, oh, you bought that one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Oculus Rift owners. Or Intellivision owners. I don't mean to be mean about it, but it's just...
No, but you're right. That's kind of the way it was back then. You had like the Atari 2600 was kind of like
everybody's system.
It was like PlayStation VR, and then Intellivision was Oculus, and then ColecoVision was
like, oh my God, you spent a lot of money for the good version of Donkey Kong. Well done. It's like that was ColecoVision.
It was, yeah. But with Arcade Perfect, Zaxxon was amazing.
Zaxxon was great. I think they had the good version of Pac-Man.
Yeah, like that looked like Pac-Man.
There's
the Atari 2600.
You want to talk about a No Man's Sky style
disappointment.
The 2600 version of Pac-Man. I remember getting that home at my friend's place, and we're like, what the hell is this? He doesn't even look up. Like, what the... It's been happening since the beginning.
It really is nothing new. Except back then there wasn't social media and like there was no place for us to go and like
no one to complain except the playground, and you couldn't return it.
Yeah, there was no Twitter for us to go and like yell at the person.
And if you adjust for inflation, Pac-Man cost about $110 in 2016 money. I mean, it was.
It did, yeah. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Cuphead's been delayed. Do you realize that I drafted Cuphead? They were on my team. Yes. Did I say something about that? Like, you think that's coming this year? No, not that one.
No.
I figured for sure an indie game that had already been delayed twice. What a debacle my fantasy team ended up being. Literally half of my team. Half of my team ended up being delayed.
Your team didn't even show up to play.
Yeah. It's unreal. And I knew it. I played the first season. I felt like I erred on the side of caution, and I just got burned over and over and over again. But on a more serious note, what the hell is going on with Cuphead, dude? Like...
I don't know. I mean, I think you're right that it was a boss rush game, and they're expanding it out to a full platformer, and that apparently takes more time than they thought.
It's crazy, dude. Like, there's no reason this game... Look, the art's incredible, and I get it. It's all hand-drawn and hand-animated, and that does take a lot more time than just building an engine and creating animation routines and behaviors and telling things what to do, but... Dang, man, this game has been in development for forever.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, think about how the Star Citizen people feel.
Yeah, although Star Citizen's starting to show up. Some of the stuff they've been showing lately looks incredible.
You see this. I mean, this is here. This exists. Cuphead is real.
Yeah.
Star Citizen is real, but the Squadron 42 single-player component got pushed to next year sometime, maybe.
Yeah.
If you're surprised by that, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But, I don't know if I was ready expecting Cuphead to be delayed, but at the same time, they'd been so vague about... I mean, I didn't think... At a certain point, once you hit October and you've got no 2016 date, I'm like, well, either this is coming out on Christmas Eve...
So indie games are kind of notorious for just having a quarter for a date, and then one day they put out a trailer and they're like...
Oh, it's next week. Go.
Or in 2 weeks or whatever.
But this one, I feel like we would have known.
Yeah, the build-up for this has been too big probably for them to do something like that.
Also, like... I wonder if somebody's like, look, God help these guys if this thing comes out and it's not amazing.
Yeah.
Because if this thing comes out and people somehow believe that, if it's another Mighty Number 9 situation, or like they think it's like some kind of half-assed, if the boss fights are great but the rest of it is just some sort of like...
Which is possible.
By rote kind of piece of shit. Like, I mean, this thing has to be, this thing has to be solid gold from start to finish at this point, basically.
Well, the game's hard as balls, so... I know already that it's going to turn off a lot of people who are going to look at it.
How hard are balls, exactly?
It depends on what kind of balls you're talking about.
Bocce balls, I think.
So anyway, I basically concede the league to you at this point. It's done. I'm trying to figure out now when we'll do the whole Bloodborne thing, which I have been trying to avoid at all costs. But probably we'll do it like after the last GameFace of the year and before we leave for the holidays or something like that. Just come in and do a stream. Maybe we'll turn it into like a Child's Play charity thing or something like that.
Just something good comes of it?
Yeah, because otherwise nothing good's going to come out of it. So.
Bloodborne.
Yeah. Okay, finally, before we get into the meat of the show, it's been swirling the last couple of days. Nintendo NX announced next week some other version of Pactor has said that they have the scoop, that they know it's going to be shown off for the first time next week, and consequently it has downgraded its rating on Nintendo stock, saying that it expects the console to sell for $300 to $350, which they think is really high. I mean,
if it's current gen tech, that's about right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't find that expensive for a video game console.
$300. If it's $300, fine. If it's got a neat little the one thing I was worried about is that like the people keep talking and like the leaks keep referring to interact with your games on the go.
Yeah.
Interact does
Instead
not mean
of play your games on the go.
What is the? If this is the VMU2, I'm going to be very irritated.
I highly doubt that.
I hope not.
That would be a huge mistake. Nintendo's made huge mistakes before.
Yeah, I mean, well, see, that's the thing is like on one hand, my brain's like, oh, well, there's no way that. I mean, if you're going to go for broke, if you're going to do this combining thing, go for broke and give me like the 3DS experience and the I don't want to say the Wii U experience because fuck that, but like the GameCube experience. But if you're gonna but it's like at the same time, I completely conceive Nintendo doing that horrible, that mistake. Yeah. It's like, oh, you can't play Breath of the Wild on the road, but you can earn sticks.
You can play this mini game.
Yeah, you can play a mini game and earn fish.
Or here's this hunting mini game that you play, and then you come back and you have ingredients to cook with or something like that. And look, I still don't think that's going to be the case.
I hope not. Look, I don't care so much because I don't intend to ever play anything on the go. Yeah. Because the thing about I've talked about this before, but it's like, okay, you can play Breath of the Wild on handheld version, or you can play. I am always going to wait till I get home because it's better on my giant screen in my home theater. I'm not going to do that. But I guarantee you, there are tons and tons and tons of fans who want that portable ability.
Yeah. And Japan. Obviously.
Oh, in Japan, but I think also over here. I mean, look, I've seen enough people freak out about how great it is to play remote stuff on the Vita for some reason. But look, this is an important thing to a large chunk of the user base, and if that's not there, the gaff thread's going to be amazing. Let's put it that way. Let's just put it that way. I can't wait to see the subreddit.
I don't think it's true. I think Nintendo would have told us either Thursday or Friday that, hey, this is happening next week. Like, they're not just going to just pop up, hey, here's the NX on Wednesday, and ta-da! Like, that's not going to happen.
Although, maybe. I don't know.
I would give it a 20% chance.
I was going to say 20%. Yeah. I was going to say that, too.
So, I really don't think that's going to happen. Don't start freaking out, sifters, worried that you're going to miss it.
So, we're basically predicting that, they're not going to show the NX this month.
Yeah, it's kind of looking that way. I mean, it could be the week after next.
It could be.
I mean,
but you're running into Black Friday shopping season, and at that point, no one's paying attention to what you're doing in March.
It is really important that they show it before Black Friday because people will have to make crucial purchase decisions for the holidays, and most people buy their gifts for others on Black Friday. And if Nintendo hasn't announced anything about the console to get people excited for it, more people are going to buy PlayStation 4 Pro, Xbox One S.
And you don't want to do it the week of Pro.
Nope.
And you don't want to do it the week of Call of Duty.
Nope.
And when at this point,
Week after next, I guess. The last week of October.
Yeah, happy Halloween. Trick or treat. Here's the NX.
That'd be kind of awesome. That'd be kind of cool. So, we'll see. I mean, this is the first time that really an investment firm has come out and said, hey, we got insider information.
It's like Bizarro Pactor.
Yeah, it is. And they downgraded the stock. That's a big deal for an investment firm.
Why would they downgrade the stock in that
Because they said the price is too high. And they think that people, and if people look at the NX and they think it's going to flop and the price ties into that, then they're going to sell their stock. So the investment firm is saying, hey, get out now. before they announce it next week and the stock plummets.
But see, the funny thing is, I feel like that's a very different decision depending on whether it is 300 or 350. Because 300 feels pretty much in line.
Yeah.
300 doesn't feel too bad.
Yeah.
Especially because, like, okay, it's the same price as like the S and maybe the Slim or whatever. Maybe the Slim's cheaper now. I don't remember. It's $100. Yeah, it's the same as the Slim because $100 less than the Pro.
Yeah.
But like, you know, if I'm looking at that as a consumer, I'm kind of like, okay, well, $300 for these slim versions of these systems have been out for 3 years, or $300 for this brand new thing. That's cool. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
$350, then I start questioning.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, why don't I spend $50 more and get the more powerful Pro? You know, so 300 feels like a pretty good spot for me.
It does. Yeah, I mean, that's probably the sweet spot for that system.
I would think so.
We'll see.
But again, we know
so.
we know nothing. It's October. This thing comes out in what? 5 months?
Yeah.
Theoretically,
It would give them 5 months to promote it and market it before it comes to
I mean,
market.
I don't think you start really promoting that until January. Maybe you do a big Super Bowl buy.
Yeah.
But
you'd have to do Super Bowl,
yeah,
without a doubt.
But like,
because it would be coming out a month after
right,
Super Bowl.
and like you want as many people. You know, that's where you go to make sure everybody and their brother sees it.
Yeah.
But like,
Nintendo has to start chatter.
it's got to. Yeah, you got to start engaging the core demographic soon.
Yep. So we'll see.
And also reassuring them that yes, you'd only still have 5 months to wait for Zelda.
Yeah.
Because if that thing gets delayed, Zelda's going with it.
Oh, for sure.
So
yeah. So we'll see. This is the first time we've got any kind of information like this from an investment firm, so we thought it was worth mentioning, but I have my doubts.
Yeah.
But one thing I don't have any doubts about is the Big Six.
People in the chat had doubts about the Big Six.
Yeah.
They're like, are they doing the Big Six
That was
today?
a long intro, yeah. Yep, we do have 6 topics for
the
today's
40-minute
show.
intro.
Yeah, that was a long one. We're going to talk about Gears of War 4. It's actually kind of worked out really well because Matt and I have kind of played different sections of the game. Mm-hmm. So we're going to form like Voltron to create one definitive opinion on Gears of War 4.
Voltron was needed once more.
Yeah. So I've actually kind of broken tradition. Usually when I play a game to evaluate it, I start with the campaign and I play through the campaign and I jump into the multiplayer and co-op and all that stuff after that. In this case, it's been reversed. I actually played Horde mode first and then played multiplayer. And I only played the prologue of the campaign, and that's pretty much it. So, Matt, how far along are you in the campaign?
I'm in Act 2 somewhere. Like they're finally starting to see the swarm.
Okay.
Like because you spend the first act, you're mostly fighting robots, and then which is pretty cool. Like,
why are you fighting robots?
Because you're infiltrating this because it's however many years after the end of the Emergence War, the Locust War, or whatever, and so now like. The government is the COGS government or whatever they are have started like sending out these like AI robots that like build cities, like full cities automatically, and then people can just like move into them. And so you're going with with Marcus's son and his buddies and this like old grizzled man. One of the outside. Basically, this is what the outsiders, the people who weren't part of the military, have become.
Yeah.
And so they're basically breaking in to steal like what's called a replicator or something like that, like a construction device that they can use to make supplies and weapons from this city. And the city apparently has these vast, vast stores of soldier robots that will stop anyone that comes in to do that, which is like. That's a big expenditure of materials and time for something that may not ever happen because there's barely any humans left. But hey, let's go with that. So you're fighting like these like android robots and let me go way back for the Ninja Turtles fans here that look a lot like the old Mirage Comics Ninja Turtles aliens that Krang is based on. They had these slim android suits they'd wear. So you spend a lot of time fighting them, these little balls that roll up, you have to kick away and shoot them before they explode. It's all kind of standard Gears stuff, but like it's not, it feels a little more binary domain in a way because you're fighting robots and like their arms and stuff can come off. And it was pretty cool. The fun thing about it is like because you're in this prefab city that they're building, everything in the city is perfect and pristine and untouched, which is like the opposite of everything in Gears ever.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like...
It's a good way to kick off the game, though.
You're fighting through almost this sterile city environment, which is unlike anything you've played Gears in before. So while you're still doing the same Gears pop and stop stuff, you're kind of like, oh, this is super bright and undamaged and colorful and
other
nice.
colors other than brown and gray and red.
And that comes like at very, very beginning, like you play the prologue, at the very, very beginning, like some flashbacks to the war before Emergence Day, and then the big final battle that happened at the end that we didn't really see at the end of Gears 3 because we were with Marcus. Right. But like you see the fight that like the general and everybody were in, like the losing final stand of humanity, right as Marcus and crew did the thing that shut down all the Locusts, which apparently has had some consequences for the planet, but like they get into that later in the story. They haven't really dealt with that yet. So I'm far enough in that like the story is starting to finally kick into gear, but not quite far enough to say whether it's like good or not in that regard. I mean, the gameplay. I can talk about the gameplay is good in terms of. I mean, it's Gears. It's funny how important being able to grab people from the other side of cover is. Because it still feels a little clunky to me in terms because Gears has always felt a little clunky, but that really sort of fixed one of my, there's always that sort of thing in Gears, multiplayer and campaign, where you'd sort of end up on the opposite sides of the same cover item.
Weird,
I think everyone's like, now, because like if you jump, because theoretically you're supposed to be able to jump over and you jump over and kick them and they sort of stumble and you can chainsaw them, whatever. But that works about like 60% of the time. You never quite knew what that interaction was going to be.
Yeah.
And this is like really sort of solved that problem, and it looks cool too.
Nobody does that in multiplayer, by the way.
No.
Nope. And all the time I played it, it never happened to me once. I think I saw somebody else do it once.
And I'm playing it on PC, and it is gorgeous. I mean, it's one of the best looking games I've ever played.
Wow, that's quite a statement.
It's the level of detail and just the texture quality is amazing, and it still runs well.
Have you played the Xbox One version at all?
No.
Oh, okay. I have.
That looks good too. I mean, I
think it looks good.
This thing is beautiful. Like on PC, like running. I have it downsampled from like 3K, running on my 2K monitor, basically.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, it's vibrant. I mean, it doesn't look as good as what I saw at E3 on the $90,000 television because that looked like that looked like a moving painting on glass, basically. But it is beautiful. It is very nice.
Even on Xbox One, it's probably the most technically adept Xbox One game.
I did want to mention because I played Gears of War Ultimate Edition on the Xbox One the week before this came out because I was waiting for it to come out and I got the Gears bug happening, and I probably would never have noticed unless I'd played Gears 1 a week previously. This fight here is actually like in the beginning of Gears 1. Like you come across the aftermath of this with the van sequence, and everything.
Yep, it totally is.
And I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That like even like because I recognize the van and there's the hole there and you don't really know what came through the hole and all this stuff. It was like this was cool. Like I thought because they're jumping so far ahead and they're sort of leaving behind the stuff we think of as familiar with Gears in terms of the Locust and that ongoing war. And like the prologue really gives a couple of nice shout outs to it. And I felt like it actually transitioned pretty nicely.
It's good to see them going back and paying some homage to the original games.
It's also nice to see the old stuff look this good.
Because, I mean, one thing I would say about like 343 taking over Halo is I feel like they didn't do any of that.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I never played like Halo 4 and was like, oh, you can tell these people are big-time Halo fans. Like, I never felt that way. But I do, even the short amount of time that I've played the campaign, I do feel that way about Gears of War 4. Like, you can see the people. I mean, I don't know if they brought over any other people from Epic to work on this.
I don't know. I mean, I know Rod Ferguson.
Obviously, he's like the big dog, but I don't know. I'm impressed with that as well. Yeah. Like that's something that stuck out to me, like right away.
Definitely, there's a respect for the source material.
Yeah,
and also
as
like
much as you can respect this source material.
Sure. but also like I feel like so far at least I feel like this game earned its 4.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like I feel because like with Halo 4, it felt like maybe you should have just called that Halo : new title.
Yeah,
because like it does. Halo 4 didn't really strike me as like really continuing off of 3 in any meaningful sense beyond like this is where Master Chief ended up and we have to start here.
Yeah,
but like this one really feels like it's still part of the series and still telling the story.
Yeah, the story itself. I think one of the reasons I did not play the campaign first is because I know there's like a strong like father and son component.
It's all the very beginning, it's like, oh yeah, all right, the whole series is fathers and sons.
It is,
really.
and like I think I said to myself, I cannot cry playing a Gears of War game. I cannot do it. Like I don't.
You didn't cry when he found Maria?
Yeah. No, I did not. And I think maybe subconsciously, that's why with this game, I did not play the campaign right away, and instead I went in and played multiplayer and horde mode
that's
instead.
wise.
But, yeah, so how heavy is that component in the story so far from what you've played?
It's there. I mean,
Yeah.
and at the very beginning, there's all things like we don't know where Marcus is, and there's sort of like, is he dead? Is he not? Like, no, you don't really know.
Yeah.
And it is similar to, there's a reason they got to find him,
Gotcha.
basically. And there's that element of JD is like his son, but he's not with the COG. He's working with outsiders, and he's raiding COG cities to get supplies and stuff. And so there's sort of this. Well, how did that happen? Yeah, that's one thing that I'm kind of glad that like it doesn't do. I mean, it does it a little bit, but it doesn't do the usual game thing where it's like, oh, you're starting in the middle of everything, and like, oh my God, now we're gonna flash back, we're gonna like catch up to where you started. I was like, go away,
Yeah.
because Mafia 3 does that, and Mafia 3 does that in a really clunky way. And the thing is like, look, the reason to start in media res, in the middle of everything, is only if. Then you start to tell what happened as you lead up to that scene, right?
Yeah.
The only reason to do that is if you desperately need the audience to know that is going to happen as they're watching the rest of this stuff.
Right.
And in something like, say, Mafia 3, and almost every video game that has ever used this device, you don't. It's just there because they think they have to start with an action scene to get your attention. But then compare it to something like Reservoir Dogs, which starts with Tim Roth writhing in the back seat, having been shot in the gut, and Harvey Keitel holding his hand and trying to keep him alive.
Yeah.
And then you jump to the whole crew getting assembled and put together, knowing that is where that's going to end up. Is you're like, okay, how is this all going to go to hell? Yeah. Whereas like in something like Mafia 3, where like you start in a big bank, like a heist at a Federal Reserve. You're like, well, I know you're going to be robbing a Federal Reserve because this is a mafia game. Like it's like there's no interest. There's not really an interesting reason why you end up in that scene in most games. And I'm glad that Gears 4 just says, you know what, we're just going to tell the story.
Yeah.
And I found that I don't know why I found it refreshing, and particularly in this game, because Gears has never done anything like that really.
No.
But like shooters have that temptation to start with the big battle. And the way they do that in this, the way they do that in this is they use the framing device of the where they're starting in the future as like a celebration, it's like an anniversary celebration where the leader of the government is kind of giving a speech about all the people that were sacrificed in the name of fighting these wars and stuff. And then you flash back to the big battles and you get your big action sequences, but it's review for us because we already played those games.
Yeah.
And that was a good way to do it and didn't make me feel like you were just manipulating me.
Let's talk about the gameplay. The limited amount that I played, pretty much just Gears 101.
Gears. Yeah.
I mean, again, I haven't played a ton of it, but that was kind of my first impression. Is it doesn't seem like it's really been moved forward in any significant way.
I would say. I mean, there's some differences in a couple of a couple of new weapons make a difference, and just.
Do you have a favorite new weapon?
I mean, I like the single-shot rifle that JD starts with.
Yeah.
I don't usually like single-shot. I mean, I guess it's semi-automatic, so it's like you get 5 shots in the magazine, but it's one. But they're very powerful and very accurate. And normally I stick with kind of the full-auto machine guns in Gears, but I've really held on to that gun.
What is that called? I can't remember.
I don't remember. It's got a weird
something
long
Buster,
name.
Maybe.
Maybe. I don't know because I've never put it
Thunder
down.
Buster or something.
I've never put it down, so I don't know what it's called. But I like that a lot. I haven't gotten my hands on the bouncy saw blade thing. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's mostly been review. It does not. I mean, I just played through Ultimate Edition, Gears of War 1, remaster. Feels the same, frankly.
What I've played is exactly the same. And that is probably at least from what I played, would be the big disappointment so far. Is that it really hasn't pushed forward as far as.
There's been a couple of moments.
Already a couple turret sequences, and I'm like,
yeah. And there's already been moments where I'm just like I don't want to say Gears has bad controls because it doesn't, but there's just moments where the control scheme just isn't up to par with what's happening in the fight.
No,
you know what I mean?
Not even just in the fight. The controls aren't up to par with what's happening in video games today. Like, look, I get the roadie run is this iconic part of Gears, but it is the most archaic, dumb gameplay mechanic ever. Like,
also, super shaky in this one.
Yeah,
like, I noticed
there's
it was
no reason that if you're crouch running that you can't be more accurate with what direction you run.
Right.
Like, and I mean, I get why they do it that way for gameplay, because it probably would be awkward with the perspective that they give you, but they need to find another way to handle, like, fast travel in this game. Like, the roadie run, to me, in multiplayer, it's freaking annoying. Like, there's just a lot, and then you come out of the roadie run, and there's that awkward, like, transition, and, like, and I'll talk about multiplayer in a second, but that's what really separates, like, the people who score high. I don't even know if I want to call them good, but the people who score high in Gears multiplayer versus those who don't, they master that transition from roadie run to combat. And in a variety of ways. Like, either they roadie run and roll and shotgun roll like they have been doing in Gears for forever, or whether they come out of cover really quickly and they're able to recover and fire before you. That is kind of turned into the defining factor that makes somebody score well at Gears or not score well at Gears. And I just feel like it's time to get rid of the roadie run. I know people are going to hate on me for saying that, and because they'll say, well, it wouldn't be Gears without the roadie run. But they need to find a better way to fast travel in this game. I just feel like it's archaic. I feel like it was, Gears is one of the first games that was really played this way. And they tried to find a cool way. And back then it was cool. It was something different and unique. Now, after I've been playing games like this for the last... When did Gears come out, the first one? 2000...
I'm going to say it was 2006.
6. Yeah, 10 years now.
Yep.
We've been playing games like this. Like, I feel like that's something that probably should have... I know people would have given the Coalition so much crap if they ditched the roadie run, and people will give me crap for saying it sucks now. But I feel like that's a hurdle that they need to get over. They need to find some other way. And I'm also disappointed that, Gears is the series that kind of polished this whole stop-and-pop gameplay, cover-based shooting gameplay, and it's just remained the same for 10 years. Like, they've really not found any innovation since then.
The closest thing to innovations I've seen is, like, some of the weapons now, like the reload.
Active reload.
Active reload. Now some of them have the active reload thing in different places in the bar.
Yeah.
And which is interesting
you gotta
because
be quicker for the higher powered weapons is what I think I've noticed.
Yeah, definitely true of JD's rifle. Like, it starts earlier, but it's also like if you hit it too soon, you have more of a window of not failing the reload. So, like, they balance that pretty well. But it's like that's as close to like anything. That's the closest thing I get when I've played so far. Going like, I was different.
Yeah.
Because I haven't played Horde. That was funny because normally I play Horde mode first.
Yeah.
But everybody I knew was online and they were all full. So I'm like, I guess we'll play the campaign.
So. Yeah, I mean, that's probably our impressions of the campaign so far. Maybe we'll come back and circle back once we've finished it or whatever.
Which apparently is not... I mean,
it sounds like you're almost there.
I don't know. Well, I know... I'm like 2 hours in, I think. And I know that it's like 5.5 hours.
Which is insane.
It sounds like it's about half the length of every other Gears campaign. Because the other Gears campaigns were pretty long.
For a shooter, yeah, they're really long. Like, you would get your money's worth out of the campaign. And then, a lot of times you go back and play it again in co-op.
Well, too long in places, Gears 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is probably still my least favorite.
Really? Gears 2 is your least favorite?
Campaign-wise, yeah.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Well, yeah, I might agree with that, actually. Yeah, I guess I would agree with that. I just assumed it's like the third one's the third. To me, the third is probably the best. Revelations is the worst, really, but I don't count that as part of the canon.
That's not Revelations. I was just saying, like, Revelations of you realize that.
Oh, Judgment was the offshoot or whatever.
I have that and I never played it.
I think a lot of people would agree with that. Yeah.
Even though I really like Baird,
yeah,
I felt like the story was told.
10 hours is too short, by the way, or 5 hours is too short for a campaign.
I think so, yeah.
For a game that's been in development this long. And...
I mean, it's got super robust multiplayer stuff, both Horde and competitive, but like, I think you could do more with that.
Speaking of doing more, let's switch gears to the multiplayer.
Gears.
Yeah. I'm not enjoying the multiplayer at all. I got in late. A lot of people have been playing it for a week. I think the matchmaking sucks. I've been thrown to the wolves like right out of the gate. Like, I'm playing with people who are level like 50, and I was level 1. I was just starting. And it's been a while since I've played Gears multiplayer, and so I was a little rusty when I first started, but now I've pretty much got back up to speed with it. and I'm just getting annihilated. Like, to the point, it's just not even fun. It's like I feel like I have, like, no chance whatsoever. Like, I'm just totally screwed. Like, these people are shotgun rolling me. They're rolling around corners and popping up and shooting me with guns that kill you with one shot. And I have this little, like, machine gun, like, spewing bullets or whatever. It's like, I don't know why this footage is at halftime.
Why is it slow motion?
I don't know. I don't know what happened to this footage. That stinks, though. It probably means our horde mode footage is in the same boat then. It must have been a rendering issue or something. Well, now you can really see
the details.
You can really see the fine details of playing Gears of War multiplayer. Our apologies for that. But I feel like I'm completely out of my league. Like, I just feel like I don't have a chance. And matchmaking is a big part of that. And I was just thrown in with these players who are way better than me. And
for that very reason, I basically don't intend to ever play the competitive multiplayer.
Yeah, and look, I was never great at it. Like, we used to play, like, Gears with, like, people at G4 and whatnot. And I'd be one of the better players, you know. At night, we'd all get together and play, and I'd finish at the top of the leaderboard most games. But man, these people are just like
crazy.
They're so freaking good.
Well, the best G4 person I think is probably Mike Dembski, who was a Gears master. Like we would go in on Gears 3. I remember we went and played I played multiplayer Gears 3 for like a week before I even touched the campaign because everybody wanted to play so much.
Yeah.
Not so much this time, but like I think that might be a function of not having Xbox Ones more than anything else. But he was on another level. Like he understood how to do stuff with the shotgun in that game that I will never understand because I don't like using shotguns.
Yeah.
But like he would carry the team on a day. And if you are good at that game, like it's almost instinctive, I guess, because like I don't have whatever it takes in the brain to grasp how to be good at that game on the level that these crazy shotgun roller dudes are, because it's just not. I can't.
Oh, I'm just like a sheep running around a bunch of wolves. And after a while, they start to figure it out. And they're like, oh, well, Genfire sucks. And they just swarm all over me. Like, they see me, and they're just like, oh, there's an easy kill. And they just come after me. It was awful. Like, and then, I've played pretty much every Gears. I've been playing this series for 10 years. And I think about people who may have maybe bought this game for, like, the first ever Gears experience. Oh, my God. Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Because it's like, there was no adjustment period because it's the same game.
It could also maybe be that, like, as the audience has shrunk for this game, that what's left, they're just really good freaking players. Like, the people who are really good at it are the ones who stuck with it.
It does sometimes make it look like, if I don't know if they can do like a custom match thing or whatever, but it's like, wouldn't it be interesting for one week? There are no shotguns in Gears multiplayer. See how you do.
That would be nice, yeah. Because they're one-hit kills. Like, they roll, and like even when I have the shotgun, and I aim and hit them right in the neck and head, they shrug it right off.
Well, you're aiming. That's the mistake. You got to roll, like you got to know where it is.
But they just shoot. They just blow your head right off.
But if you watch someone playing like on a stream or something that's good at doing that, they're not aiming. They just know where to shoot. Like, it's amazing.
It really is. I just don't have that much time to dedicate to one game anymore, and therefore it just made it frustrating and not fun for me. On the flip side, Horde. Horde 3.0, because the first game did not have Horde mode, so I guess they're calling this 3.0. Is that right?
What?
The first game didn't have Horde mode.
No, it didn't.
Yeah,
so it was a Horde into 2.0 and 3, and then
3.0 and 4.
And I don't think Judgment had anything big enough to call it. Maybe it was 2.2.
I'm completely perplexed by what happened to this footage, by the way.
Weird.
It is so weird. It was recorded at 30 frames per second and then rendered out at 30 frames per second. And somehow, I don't know. It's really bizarre. It'll be interesting to see if the same thing happens with our Call of Duty footage. I don't know what's going on.
That's weird.
Yeah, it is really bizarre.
But yeah, you can really see the animation detail.
Well, the weird part there is it went full speed there for a second. And then it started going slow. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with this. It's really bizarre.
That's never happened before.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. But, so Horde mode, it's so slow, I can sit here and just explain to you how it all works. So, basically it starts, you have that crate, which is basically a fabricator that allows you to build turrets and...
Yeah, that's what you're stealing from the city in the Act 1.
Oh, the fabricator.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. So you can move the fabricator wherever you want and position it, and you can position it throughout the round as well. You can move it at will anytime you want to. And basically how it works is obviously, just like every other Horde mode, the waves of enemies come at you. And as you kill an enemy, they drop, credits. And when they drop the credit, you pick it up, and you can take it back to the fabricator and cash it in, and you use that to build the armaments. I haven't gotten past, the 11th or 12th wave. The boss waves in this are insane. The one was, a Brumac, except it's called, a Swarmac. Because, obviously...
it's totally different.
Because, obviously, it's called a Swarmac. And... it was like a Swarmac, and we had gotten to that wave with no problem. I think I had died twice, up to that wave, and then we could never beat the boss wave. We tried it 20 or 30 times in a row. That was the farthest I ever got with a team. And so as you go, you drop enemies, you take the tokens back, and then you build armaments. And you can see right there, you have strips that'll slow them down. You have decoys. You have a turret, a flak turret. You have a turret that will slow people down, and you have a turret that will also, that you can actually control yourself. The turrets are way too easy for the enemies to defeat. It sucks. It'll take 3 waves to get enough credits to build a turret, and you lay the turret down, and then within 5 enemies they've destroyed the turret. So I don't know if the economy is working out too good in the Horde mode. But otherwise, it's pretty much the same thing that we've played before. I struggle really to find many differences other than the fact that you get to use, the new weapons that are in the rest of the game. And you get to fight the new enemies that are in the rest of the game. But otherwise, and that actually does add a little bit to it because some of the enemies are pretty nimble. There's the enemy that was at the end of the very first gameplay demo that they showed, that thing with the tail and the tongue. They're a part of it, and they're really nimble, and they'll jump all over the environment, and will go up high and down low, so you're not just always shooting right at head level or whatever. But otherwise, it's pretty much just the same thing, man. It's just you and 3 friends taking on wave after wave of enemies. I know people are kind of all over it. To me, it's just the same thing all over again. I don't really understand why.
If it ain't broke, I guess. But
and I think honestly, that's kind of the theme for this whole freaking game.
Yeah.
Is if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Just make the texture resolution higher.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of Gears of War 4 in a nutshell. There's really not that much about it that separates it from the last 3 games. There's certainly not much that separates it from Gears of War 3.
I mean, it's basically do you like Gears of War? Here's Gears of War, but way prettier.
Yeah, I mean, it's like comfort food video gaming, I guess is the best way to put it. And look, it does
mac and cheese of shooters.
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of went on a curve. Gears 1 sold pretty well.
Yeah.
Gears 2 sold exceptionally well.
Yeah.
Started coming down the mountain there at Gears 3. And so, it still does have a big audience. It doesn't have the audience that it once did. But I think it'll satisfy fans of Gears of War, and a lot of times fans of particular franchises aren't really interested in big changes anyway.
Yeah.
They're just give me this game again.
But it's very interesting to see kind of, I think parallels will be drawn between Gears 4 and God of War 4, whereas God of War is going completely different direction with it. And actually looks more like Gears.
Yeah, it does a little bit, yeah.
But, there's 2 different ways you can go with this stuff, and they took the polar opposite attack strategies, basically.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see which one pays off better. I mean, I judging by my friends list, it looks like this thing's selling pretty well.
It seems like there's a lot of people on my list that are playing it.
And there have definitely been games that have come out on the bone that I cannot say that about.
No, for sure.
So, because that doesn't really happen much anymore.
Actually, Forza Horizon 3's been that way for me, too.
Yeah, there were a lot of Forza players.
I still see a lot of people playing it, yeah.
So it's been good for Microsoft in that, and this quarter, for sure. But again, there used to be the nights when, the big games would come out, and you go, you turn on the 360, and, everyone, your 100 friend limit, and I had, when the Gears games would come out, it would be, 50 of the 100 were playing
Gears.
At
least, yeah.
Or Halo as well. And I haven't seen that much this generation on either platform.
You're right.
Really.
Yeah.
But Gears and Forza, there have been a lot of people play. The last time I saw that many people playing the same game on any friends list, I think this generation was Destiny.
Yeah.
So I'll be interested to see what the sales look like.
Yeah. So you drew the parallel to Halo 4 earlier. Mm-hmm. Kind of showing this game in a positive light compared to Halo 4, but I would actually contend that this game is still very similar to Halo 4. Mm-hmm. It plays it
I
safe.
meant more. I think I meant that more in narrative terms, in terms of how they were treating the world building and the way the narrative continues, because they both involve a jump from the kind of the conclusion of the trilogy.
Yeah.
I think Gears of War 4 makes that transition much better than Halo 4 did.
But this still gives me that same kind of vibe. Like it's just,
well, I think Halo 4 changed more in terms of how you were fighting and what you were fighting. I think Halo 4 made a lot of mistakes in that regard.
Yeah.
Because the Prometheans are not fun to fight in any way, shape, or form. At least the Swarm and the robot enemy so far
aren't worse.
Well, they aren't worse. Exactly. They're what
That's
you've
the best
done
thing
before.
We can say. It's not worse.
Yeah, they're what you've done before, but at least it wasn't making me sitting there like Halo 4, being like, man, I wish I could fight some elites for a change.
Yeah, I'm enjoying my time with it. Not exceptionally, though. Like, I find myself, like, wanting to play other stuff while I'm playing it.
Yeah, I mean, I played the campaign a couple of times. It's a 5-hour campaign, and I still haven't finished it a week later. I mean, what does that say?
Yeah.
I haven't gone back to it. I've had VR stuff to play. I was playing Mafia 3. I was tempted away by other things. And I haven't really... Of course, the other thing is, like, when I go to play a game on my PC, I look at my Steam list, and this is not on my Steam list.
Right.
It's on my Xbox app that I try to keep closed because it's annoying. But I'll probably, tonight maybe I'll go back and play it again.
I think if I had to sum it up in one sentence, solid but unspectacular.
Yeah. Visually stunning.
And I said the same thing about Halo 4. Solid but unspectacular. That's how I feel. What is up with this fly attacking
fly
us?
in here, yeah. Fly's
I've never seen an insect in here before.
Fly's a big Gears fan, apparently.
That's a good one. So, all right, let's move on. Next, we're going to talk about, and hopefully the footage for this isn't totally borked. It's good. You already checked it out. That's good to hear. I don't know what happened with Gears. What is up with that? It's really bizarre.
Were you capturing 30?
Yeah.
Well, because the multiplayer runs at 60.
It does.
So maybe it was some kind of halvesy problem.
Really bizarre.
There.
Sorry about that again, people. But next we're going to talk about the Infinite Warfare, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare multiplayer beta. If you guys have been on the site the last couple days, we gave away a bunch of codes. All the codes are gone, by the way. We've taken down the promotion for it, and the thread has been unstickied, so you guys won't try and get a code. But yeah, we did a little contest. People explained to us why they thought they deserved a code, and we sent one to them. So if you're watching this and you haven't been on the site, it's in your inbox right now. The code should be. So I've been playing this pretty much all day today. And if you've watched GameFace, you know that Matt and I are both really excited for Infinite Warfare, which is something we haven't really been able to say about Call of Duty for a while. Of course, that hype was all based on promo. This
Right.
is the first chance we've actually had to play.
And honestly, 98% of my hype is based on campaign.
Yeah, because that's what they've shown in the campaign has looked really freaking awesome. But now we're playing multiplayer. So, man,
Well, you are.
Yeah, you haven't got a chance to play it yet.
I put my code in, I downloaded it yesterday, and then I tried to play it, and it wouldn't work. I guess it's a PSN issue. And then I tried again later last night, and it still wouldn't work. And then today I spent all day, playing all the VR stuff I hadn't gotten to yet in preparation for the show. So I have not played this at all. Although all my spare codes apparently did go to Sifters. So at least somebody is getting use out of it.
Yep. So we got some codes, and Matt actually had a few leftovers. I don't know where you got your codes from, but he had a few leftovers, and he gave them to us to give to you guys. So we ended up being able to give away more than we initially thought we'd be able to, which is awesome. So thank you, Matt, for that. Mm-hmm. But I've been playing this all day today.
One of these days I'll do something similar to get rid of all my extra Humble Bundle codes.
Yeah.
I have a lot of those.
I have codes laying all over the place. I should give them away to Sifters or put them in a thread on our forums or something. But so I played this pretty much the better part of the day today. People were already, it's insane, dude. People were already like level 20. It's only been available for like 24 hours. Like, it's unreal. Like, some of these people literally have not stopped playing since it came out. And it was another case where the matchmaking probably could have been better. I'm level 1 playing against guys who have almost reached the level cap already for the beta.
What is the level cap?
I don't even know what it is, to be honest with you, but I'm assuming that they've got to be right there.
Whatever that guy who killed me is, that's the level
over
cap.
And over again. Yeah, this actually isn't the footage of me playing. This is like a multiplayer trailer or whatever, but I have fared far better at this than I did at Gears, by the way. Like, I was actually competitive at this. I was finishing around, like, 1-1.
Yeah, I don't think I will do any better.
Yeah.
Frankly.
I mean, the other problem, too,
you at least have some, like, year-to-year experience with this game.
Well, the other problem, too, is when you're capturing, it's, you're going through all these wires.
It's all
and
the pass-through. Yeah.
And it matters in this game, man. Like, in every Call of Duty, like, every 10 milliseconds makes a difference in your gameplay. So I've been playing through all this capture equipment, which you get a lot of lag instituted that way. But, honestly, Matt, I feel like this multiplayer, and maybe I'm not deep enough yet to where I'm getting a lot of the good, like, score streaks or the perks and whatnot. Most of the perks I have right now are perks that I've had in prior games, like Hardline and things like that. So maybe I just haven't unlocked enough of it yet, but my initial impressions after playing this for a day is that it really isn't all that different from Black Ops 3. It's kind of a combination between Infinite Warfare and Black Ops 3, because it has like that futuristic bent to it, but it kind of has the gameplay of Black Ops 3. Infinite Warfare, if you remember, had like the crazy jetpacks, which I freaking love.
Advanced Warfare?
Advanced Warfare, right. Yeah. I can't. All these names are just starting
Warfare.
It's all blurring together, yeah.
Fair War.
Had the jetpack, which really changed things drastically, I thought. But for this, like, they've kind of gone back and pulled it back a little bit and just kind of fell in line with Black Ops 3. You still have the wall
the beginning
running.
Makes like the big deal out of the rigs thing, but like it doesn't seem to actually be all that different from, I mean, it's obviously there's their class system, but like the characters don't seem to fight like they've got mech suits on, really.
I don't get that vibe from it at all. Like, the rig that I chose was just a typical assault rig, and basically what it does is it gives you this almost like crossbow weapon, but it's a machine gun.
Oh, is that thing that goes like...
Yeah, and it opens up, and then it shoots. It basically is like, you don't even have to aim, and it'll kill enemies. It's kind of like a score streak for people who suck, I guess is the best way to put it. I mean, it's basically what the rigs do, is it gives you some crazy ability that you don't have to actually earn, per se. Like, you don't have to kill, like, 20 guys in a row to get this special thing to happen. But otherwise, it plays, like, almost identically. Like, you have the double jump, you have the wall run, you have the slide. So that's the traversal that you have, which is nothing innovative or nothing new. It does play pretty quick, which has kind of been the trademark of the series now for the last few entries. It's kind of futuristic. You're fighting robots a lot of the time. I mean, other people play as robots. It's like a character class that you can select and play as. But it doesn't feel like futuristic the way Advanced Warfare did. That game, to me, felt like it was set in the future. This one feels like it's set in present day with crazy mech suits that you strap on. What else can I say? The modes that are in this are all pretty basic. There's, like, Team Deathmatch. I think Kill Confirmed is in there. Domination. And then there's, like, a roving domination where you have to, like, you can capture, like, a drone and upload information to it, and you have to protect the drone while you're uploading the information. It's all just permutations and combinations of capture and hold, basically. So there aren't really any unique modes in it yet. There aren't that many maps. In fact, I played probably the same map 80% of the time, which is good in some ways because I managed to learn the map, because that's a big part of Call of Duty is knowing the map and knowing where people will come from and where the funnels are. So my first couple matches, I got annihilated. I think I died like 12 times and only saw the person that killed me like twice. Because when you know the maps, like you know where to sit and you know where people are going to run, and people just sit in windows and just wait for the cattle to go through the chute and just wipe everybody out. Am I having fun with it? Yeah, I guess. Leveling up seems pretty quick. Like, I think I hit level 4 after like 3 matches or something like that. Like, so it's not like you're slogging through like leveling up and getting new perks and weapons and attachments and things like that. But going back to what you're saying about the rigs, like, you're right. Like, the rig kind of gives you like a unique ability, but otherwise you still use like the pick 10 system, where you can completely customize your loadout. Like, I don't even roll with a sidearm or a secondary weapon at all. Like, I just get rid of it, and therefore I don't need any attachments for it. And that gives me more attachments for my primary weapon, gives me more perks and things like that to assign. Maybe I want to use an extra like deployable or something like that. Deplorable.
Extra deplorable.
An extra deployable. A a lot of the kill streaks, or the score streaks, I guess as they're called now, are the ones that I've seen so far have just been like altered versions of the same stuff that you've seen before.
You're calling a drone instead of a Black Hawk.
Pretty much, yeah. And, it's like a spaceship instead of a helicopter, but it basically does like the same thing. I mean, overall, I guess I would say I'm kind of disappointed with it, to be honest. Like, I really had high hopes for this. The grapple hook could have made a huge difference in this. It's not in the multiplayer, at least not what I've seen of it so far. I haven't really seen any zero gravity stuff yet either.
And that would be the worst thing to put behind like the max level cap.
Yeah.
Like, everyone who's max level gets grappling hooks.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, come on,
yeah.
people.
I haven't seen any zero gravity stuff other than there's one map where when somebody dies, then they go into zero G. They'll start floating away, which is really weird. And if you're the person that dies, it's really bizarre because it like... I'm not explaining it. It's like all of a sudden you're seeing the screen, and then the screen just starts going like really slowly, like sideways. You're like, what's going on? You're like, oh, I'm dead. And then they'll show like the replay of you getting killed or whatever. But I haven't actually fought like real time in any zero G stuff.
It's cool how your suit's artificial gravity knows when you're dead.
Yeah.
Like, well, we're done.
How does that work? I don't know. But I was really excited to play this. And now that I played it, like I thought, I would end up playing it all weekend. Once I booted it up today, I'm like, oh, well, my weekend's done. Once I get done with GameFace tonight, I'll play all night. Then I'll play all day tomorrow in between watching football. And that's one of the things for the Xbox One is amazing. You can play a game and snap the football game like right up in the corner if you want to. But now I'm just like, I should probably play Gears and finish it for like the game eval. Like I should probably go back and play it. Like I'll be interested to see everyone else's take, to see if everyone else kind of feels the same way as I do. But it just is not sort of that next step forward. There's no real revelations in it.
I don't know what to expect with it because
you haven't played the last couple.
The last Call of Duty multiplayer I played to any serious extent was Modern Warfare 2. The last one I played, period, multiplayer for any length of time was Modern Warfare 3. So it's been literally years since I played a Call of Duty game.
Oh, then you're going to find all kinds of new stuff then. Yeah, I mean, look, I should have sort of qualified my statements by saying, this is from the perspective of someone who has played every Call of Duty every year. And some I play more than others. Black Ops 3, that's the least I've ever played a Treyarch Call of Duty. Black Ops 2, I probably played the most of any Call of Duty in my entire life. And a big part of that was that I was really good at it. For whatever reason, it was just one of the Call of Duties that I just dominated at, which I can never understand why one year I can be really good, and the next year I'll hover around like a little above like 1 for my KD. Like, I don't know what it is. Advanced Warfare I was really good at, too. I don't know why. Maybe the jetpack from playing all those years of Tribes helped me. I have no idea. It's completely perplexing to me why that would be the case. But this one is another one where I'm hovering around like the 1, slightly above 1, like 1.2, 1.1. I generally finish with as many kills as deaths. The maps are small. The maps so far that I've played are really small, really claustrophobic. There's lots of height to them. Lots of windows for people to peek out of and shoot you from. But they don't go that high. It's not like Titanfall high where you're 100 yards off the ground with a sniper rifle, like picking people off as they run underneath the building. It's only like 2, I think actually the 3rd floor was the highest I saw on any of the maps for this. But, I think maybe my expectations got out of control. I think I just got more excited for this than I should have.
Did you play the remastered Modern Warfare at all?
I have not played that yet, no.
I played a couple of levels of that.
Yeah.
'Cause that for pre-orders, I think you got that the 4th or something like that, the 9th. I played a little bit of that.
What do you think?
Modern Warfare.
Yeah.
It's like you can tell it looks better, but at the same time, it's like that game always looked pretty good.
It did,
anyway.
yeah.
And it's interesting. It's also the funny thing is like to play it now, and you're like, this is so slow.
Yeah, it moves really slow.
Like it's just a campaign. You can't play multiplayer on it. It's just a campaign. But even playing the campaign, I'm just like, wow, this is so slow. And there's also a part at the beginning. I never thought about this. I never noticed this. It just kind of shows how far games keep moving into that hold your hand direction. But at the very beginning, you do the shooting range test, and then it's like, okay, go see Captain Price, or you can go, or the objective's like optional, you can go do the obstacle course, or and it doesn't show you where the obstacle course or where the grenade range is. You have to you have to realize that that's to your left as you're running to the other. And it's like the idea that a game now would not point out exactly where.
Oh no, there'd be a waypoint in there. Like, go this way.
And I'm like, look at that. Even the game that a lot of people blame for the dumbing down of gaming as we know it wasn't that dumb
really
as it is now. You know, it was just a moment where like, and of course I was the idiot since like, where are the grenades? I don't know where the grenades are. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know what I'm looking at. What the fuck?
Oh, we're spoiled now.
Yeah.
You just assume it's going to show you how to get there.
Yeah.
That's just the way games work.
It reminded me of putting in the Team Eco remaster collection for the first time. I'm booting up Eco, and like you pop out of the little like metal coffin thing he's in, and I'm like, what? You're not going to tell me what X does? Like, what do I? Oh, I just have to press the buttons and find out that that's what jump is. Wow, what a crazy time! What a world, you know.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see how far even from that point. I mean, that's 2007.
Yeah.
You know, in 9 years, we've come to this point where nothing happens without help.
That was the first HD console game that blew my mind.
I was pretty blown away by Call of Duty 2.
Yeah.
In terms of, because I still remember going, because I don't remember why it happened, but for whatever reason, everybody was reviewing everything for the 360 launch, and I ended up getting assigned to go to Infinity Ward in the Valley, and you go play the game, go play Call of Duty 2 and review it, like your and capture footage and do the whole thing. Was because we did that big live 360 launch event that year, and I remember getting sent to do that, and I remember driving there thinking, like, man, I don't want to play another World War II shooter. I'm gonna be I'm gonna have to sit there all day and play it, and I'm gonna have to. And I sat down and like, okay, here you go. And I sat down and started to play it. And I'm like, holy shit! Like it was so far beyond anything I had expected, even having played Call of Duty 1. That I was like not ready for. And I remember.
Wait, wasn't that on PC though? That event? I think I was there. Was it in that big hangar?
No, this was
This was not Presidio. You sure?
That was Battlefield, I think.
Was it?
Call of Duty 2 was not an event. It was me going to Infinity Ward's office to review it. Period. With a little recorder thing, and I played it for like 3 hours, and I broke for lunch, and I remember sitting down at the lunch, and they're like, "So what do you think?" And I was like, I didn't know what to say. I was so not ready for the game to look that good and play that well and be that cool, because I thought I was over the World War II shooter, and there it was. And then Modern Warfare was the same thing all over again.
Yeah, Modern Warfare, when I went to see it for the first time at Activision in this big theater, I remember the first scene where he goes into this room and there's dust swirling through the light. And I was like, holy crap.
The other thing I remember...
literally, it blew my mind. My jaw went,
Well, the other thing I remember about the Infinity Ward, because I did the same thing for Modern Warfare. I went to Infinity Ward, played it there, and reviewed it. And I remember at lunch for Call of Duty 2... They're like, do you like it? Is it good? Like, do you think it's good? Like, what about this? Do you think this is good or that's good? And I'm like, yeah. And then for Modern Warfare 1, when I sat down to lunch, I sat down and they're all like, pretty fucking awesome, huh? like they knew they had it with Modern Warfare. They knew they had it.
Well, I remember when they showed it to me, and there was only like 10 or 14 of us in the room at that time. And I remember I was sitting next to Jeff Keighley, and they showed us like a 14-minute demo or something like that. And I know we looked at each other at least 8 times like this.
Like it looks like this? Yeah.
Like
it's a crime that they didn't have better miking of the crowd and they still don't mic the crowd well enough at E3 press conferences.
Yeah.
But at 2007 Microsoft press conference at Santa Monica High School, the big open auditorium, and it was the beginning of the ghillie suit thing, and they stood up out of the grass, and the whole audience just gasped. No one saw that come. And if you watch it on video, like you don't hear that to the degree it was in person. Like in person, the whole 1,000 people all went like at once. It wasn't people freaking out that Zelda was shown in 2004, but it was one of the best reactions I've seen from a crowd at one of those press conferences, and like you forget how different that was then. Yeah. And now it's just like, oh look, it's a thing that if like my mom walked by, she'd think I was watching a live action sports show, and no one gives a shit. You know. Yep.
Well, back on Infinite Warfare, if you guys did not get a beta code, maybe you should be comforted by my impressions of it so far.
Yeah, I'm kind of starting to feel like maybe I should just wait and play it when it comes out so I don't spoil myself a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I have done that where I just like, I don't play it much in the retail because I've already played the beta to hell and back.
One thing I would say, though, is if you've not played the last few games, playing the beta would get you up to speed with the traversal and all the changes that have happened over the last few
That's a good point.
installments.
I've already downloaded the 18 gigs, so I might as well do it.
Well, I know a lot of people that we gave the codes to, I kind of erred on the side of people who were like, oh, I haven't played a Call of Duty in a while, and I want to see if this is for me, because people who are fans of Call of Duty, they're sold already. Like, this beta, as bad as they want to play it because they're fans, it's not going to help them decide whether they want to buy it or not. And a lot of the people who posted in the thread for the beta codes were like, I haven't played the last few, and I'm trying to figure out whether I want to buy this thing or not. And so I tried to give the codes to those kind of people because I thought it would be the most help to them. Because it has changed. I mean, if you have not played the last few, it's changed a lot since then. I mean, there are probably people that are going to watch this and say, what the hell is Shane talking about? But I'm guessing that they have not been playing and keeping up with the series year after year. So I'm hoping those people are having fun. And it's not that it's bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's just the same.
You've done it.
Yeah, I feel like I've been there and I've done that. It's new maps. It runs at 60 frames per second, just like every other Call of Duty does at this point. It runs really well. It looks pretty sharp. I like the color palette in the game. But otherwise, it's pretty unremarkable, I guess is the best way I could put it. So we'll see. Again, this is just a beta, and we're just getting a taste of the maps. And look, maps are a big deal in a shooter. Maps can make or break a shooter. And I've only been playing it for a day, and so I haven't unlocked a lot of the perks, a lot of the score streaks and things like that. But I have a feeling a lot of people on their first day of getting this game are going to say the same thing I did, in that it's, and maybe my opinion will change as I play it. If I do keep playing the beta, maybe it'll change. But at first blush, that's kind of how I feel about Infinite Warfare. So,
have you seen I haven't read too much online about it, but I've seen people just basically saying it's horrible. Do you know why that's happening?
Well, I think yesterday they were having huge problems with matchmaking. And that's one thing I would say is even today, one of the Call of Duty developers, I can't remember if it was Treyarch or whatever, I was talking to them one time after we had a couple beers, and they said, do you want to know what the trick to making Call of Duty multiplayer so popular is? And, I thought I knew already what that was. And I was like, I'll humor you. Yeah, tell me. He's like...
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I remember this story.
He's like, don't let people sit there after the match. Get the next match going as quickly as possible. Don't even give somebody enough time to ponder whether they should stop playing the game. And they felt like that was one of the tent poles of the Call of Duty franchise. And then the more I started thinking about it,
yeah, I think that's right.
It never got out of my mind. Every time I play Call of Duty now, I'm like, I think about it. I'm like, my interest is starting to wane. I'm starting to get and then it kicks off.
Oh, you're in.
And you're in. And
I have quit so many nights of Battlefront, Star Wars Battlefront, because it takes so long from match to match.
Yeah, and it's you sit there for 45 seconds, you start to doze off, you're like, screw this.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I'm out, and I'm done. And you turn everything off and you leave. Call of Duty's been really good about that. This game is not like that. It takes first of all, they give a minute in between matches, where there's a countdown of a minute. But it also takes much longer to load the game in and get the game started. Once you get in the game, it's a 15-second countdown once you're spawned into the game before the game starts. That's a tenet of Call of Duty. I mean, there should be a master Bible for Call of Duty at Activision where they're look, we'll give you leeway to do some stuff, but these are things that you have to do. And it's missed that. Somehow it takes forever, and it took a long time to find a game. I found that in Gears 2, though. Gears 4, man. Multiplayer matches took forever to find.
People in the chat were saying that you watch a guy wait for 3 minutes to
3 minutes. I had to wait
get in a
3 minutes. Yeah, and it's and then the crappy part for me was I get into a game because the matchmaking completely blows. They put me in a game with all these overmatched people, and I'd want to get out, but then I'd be like, but then I got to sit there for 3 minutes again to get, and it consistently was like that. 3 minutes every freaking time. They need to fix that, man. That's really bad. That's the anti-Call of Duty. And maybe that's why Gears over time has faded while Call of Duty has maintained, its its dominance. So, obviously there's a lot more to play of Infinite Warfare. I've just scratched the surface, even of the beta, in all honesty. I will be interested to see what everyone else thinks and see if they're kind of thinking the same thing I am. But so far, solid but unspectacular. Again, another one of those games. So, we'll see.
Yeah.
It's not like Gears where I have the whole game now,
right?
And I'm experiencing everything.
It's only a couple weeks.
It is, yeah. And it'll be interesting to see. They already rolled out a new mode today in the beta. for Infinite Warfare. They added like one today, and I think they're adding another one tomorrow. So they are rolling out like new stuff every day, which is cool. It'll get people to come back. It'll get me to come back probably. So
Cool.
we'll see. Let's move on.
I do want to address Dragon Slayer 91, who seemed to be amazed at the idea of a press conference at a high school. E3 2007 was the weird E3 that took place in Santa Monica across a bunch of like high schools or across a bunch of hotels and stuff. And the Microsoft press conference that year was at the Santa Monica High School like open air Coliseum football stadium. Which you wouldn't know it was a high school by looking at it. It's crazy.
How many people go to football games at that high school?
Apparently more than we would think. But so that year that press conference was in the football stadium of Santa Monica High School.
Yep. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Virginia.
Yes, Virginia, there is a game eval.
This is the first silent video game I've ever played.
Oh, yeah?
Other than like back in the day before they had voice acting in games.
I played a silent video game by accident today.
How was that?
We'll get to it in the PlayStation VR segment.
All right.
But it's a bad glitch in Until Dawn.
Okay. Well, this is the first game I've ever played that was designed to be silent. Like, this isn't a glitch. This is the game was constructed from the beginning to have no spoken dialogue whatsoever. It's interesting. I will say, at first it's kind of unsettling because I think we're just so conditioned to have characters talking in games that you're just like, wait a minute. And, if you didn't know that the game was designed this way, and sadly, I try to go into evaluating games with knowing as little as possible about them, but sadly I didn't know about no dialogue before I started this, so it wasn't that unsettling to me because I knew it was there. Still, it was weird. It felt like there was something missing at first. Somebody who knows nothing about this game will probably think there's something wrong with the game at first. In fact, there's other things in this game that will make you think there's something wrong with the game. Like, it does these jump cuts throughout the whole game where you're just walking down a hallway and then it just cuts and you're in a cave. And then you spend like 20 seconds in the cave and then it cuts. This is what it does. Like, the first hour of this game, I was like, oh my god, who thought this was a good idea? Look, this game's been called like the Twin Peaks of video games, and it is. Like, you can tell that whoever made this game is a huge fan of Twin Peaks because it's everything about it screams it. It's like an investigative thing with a bunch of cops in the country, and there's a lot of similarities to it. But the difference between doing jump cuts like they did with Twin Peaks and doing it in a first-person video game is the perspective. It works when everything's shot from a third-person perspective. But when you're seeing it from the perspective of somebody who's participating, it's just jarring and awkward. But I will say, though, that by the end of the game, it did not bother me as much as it did in the beginning. I don't know what that says or what that means, but for whatever reason, like, by the time I got to the end, I was like, all right. I was like, okay, I'm cool with that. To be completely honest, the comparison to Twin Peaks is very apt. Like, there's just all these non sequitur scenes that you're just kind of shot, literally just jump cut into. Things will happen, and then you'll jump back to where you were. It's this whole mystery around a family whose young son disappears. But what it really becomes about is the relationship between you're a rookie FBI agent, and your partner, who is more of a veteran agent. And what happens is your first case is to find this missing boy, but the day after you get your first case, your assigning officer calls you into his office and throws a file across the desk, and you look at it, and basically you have to infer that he's asking you to investigate your partner. And so the real story in the game really isn't about finding the boy. They kind of try to pay it off pathetically at the end, like with the boy. They do kind of tie that up. But it's really about the relationship between you and your partner and what it's like because they build a relationship between you and your partner. There's like a couple scenes where you're hanging out outside of work or you're hanging out at her house. These are two women, by the way. You're both women. And there's some romantic...
Which one's Virginia?
It's not. That's not for the name. It's for where it's set.
All right.
But there are some romantic undertones in it where you wonder if like the two of them are kind of hooking up, and then there's scenes where they're like drinking together, like outside. So the game does its best to make you care about your partner, to create sort of this inner turmoil with the player where you're questioning whether you want to investigate them or not. And sadly, this is an adventure game where there is no choice. You can't decide whether you want to betray your partner and turn your partner in or anything like that. It's completely linear. In fact, I've said this before, that I have a problem calling walking simulators games. This one in particular, I mean, the interaction, it almost feels like they were working on like a short film or an animated short or something like that, and they watched it and were like, oh, this will never fly as a short film or an animated short. But if we add button presses in here and there, I bet you we can sell it as a video game for $20. And actually, they sell it for $10, which is good because it's only 2 hours long. But I have a ton of issues with this game, but for whatever reason, it has stuck with me ever since I played it. And I would say, I'm not a big fan of the walking simulator genre, but I would put this right...
You get stuck playing a lot of them, though.
I do, yeah. Well, a lot of times it's like I have 2 hours here and there, and I'm like, I have this hole to fill, and I'm like, well, I've got a code laying around for this, like I might as well put it in, and then...
I may not be able to finish The Witcher 3, but I can get Firewatch done, I guarantee.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to sometimes. And this was one of those cases. I'm like, I can play this for 2 hours, I can finish it, I can put up an eval, value for our users with very minimal effort on my part, and I ended up enjoying it. Like, it has myriad issues. There's no doubt about it. It's only vaguely interactive, but it does tell an interesting story. It does kind of destroy everything at the end, I'll say that much. Like, at the end, like, you basically just don't do anything. You can just put the controller down, and the game just kind of plays itself. And it goes literally through almost like a 30-minute montage of weird crap that happens. Like, 30 minutes, dude.
How does it compare? Have you played Kentucky Route Zero?
I've not.
That's my other, like, Twin Peaks, David Lynch.
Yeah, I've heard that, that it's very similar.
Touchstone in the adventure game sort of realm, but I have kind of backed away from that, waiting for them to finish the damn thing.
I thought they just did.
No, they got episode 5 coming still.
Oh.
They got one more to go.
Oh, gotcha. But didn't the last episode just come out of nowhere?
Oh, well, sort of, but like back at last...
There was no announcement, no trailer.
Well, yeah,
but here it is.
4 was, but last November they said, oh, it's almost done, here it goes, and then it came out like...
Almost a year later.
Almost a year later.
That's crazy.
It's been years since that game came out.
Yeah.
For the first episode of that game. And it's actually, look, Kentucky Route Zero, I only played the first 2 episodes until I decided, like, I'm just going to wait until you're done,
Yeah.
But...
this is not episodic. This is one and done,
this is one thing. But it's just like that. But it's very magical, realist, David Lynch, Twin Peaksy kind of thing. Not in the same way as Virginia seems more on the nose in terms of setting and sort of like the FBI connection and all that. But
there's even like a bar scene where there's like a lounge group playing, and I swear that like one of the songs that they're playing is actually from Twin Peaks. Like, I don't think developers are trying to hide the inspiration for the game or anything.
Well, it's going to be more and more as it comes along because Twin Peaks is getting seasons 3 and 4 next year, so expect Twin Peaks to become prominent.
A thing again.
It'll become a thing. There are far worse things to become a thing again.
Oh yeah, just in time for Virginia 2.
Yeah.
I'm sure they've already started on it with the idea that
Virginia 2, West Virginia.
Yeah. Or maybe let us call it West Virginia instead of Virginia. But going back to what I was saying, though, I'm not a big fan of this genre. I've called them not really games many times. But I would put this game right up there with Firewatch, like is kind of, in my opinion, sort of the pinnacle of the genre. The examples of the genre that people who don't typically like it will actually appeal to them, and they'll enjoy their time they spend with it. And the other part too is that like this is actually priced right. A lot of these games are $15 or $20, which to me is total robbery. The game's $10. It's 2 hours, $5 an hour for entertainment.
It's a matinee and a
movie. That's pretty much the going rate for entertainment these days. So, it's such a low investment. If you're even vaguely interested in these types of games, I highly recommend it. Like I said, it's stuck with me. I go to a lot of movies, play a lot of games that I spend a lot more than $10 for. That when I finish the game, I never think about them again. And this game had me thinking about it long after I finished it, even days after I finished it. So, I do recommend it. If you like walking simulators, just go buy it right now. You're gonna love it. If you're someone who typically doesn't like them, or maybe hasn't really ever tried them and kind of want to know what they're about, I would say this is probably the one that you should use as sort of your litmus test to figure out whether or not you like them or not. If you don't enjoy this game, you will not like walking simulators. I can tell you that. And this is a lower investment than a lot of them. So
we got someone in Russian writing in Russian talking about how the Yellowstone hypervolcano is going to explode. The chat's going crazy.
Awesome. Welcome to GameFace.
I'm sure there's a walking simulator about that too. In the works.
And it'd probably be made in Russia. Yeah. All right, let's move on. So, Matt, this week, I don't know if you saw it or not, but Comcast, one of the biggest internet service providers.
Oh, I'm familiar with Comcast.
No.
Believe you me.
Do you have Comcast?
Oh, no, but I worked for them for a long time.
Oh, right. G4.
I have Time Warner.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, which is now Spectrum or something now?
Yeah, Time Warner Cable is now Spectrum, which I have no idea
when
why.
I first moved to LA was the major competing gym to LA Fitness.
Right,
so
that's right.
It's all going crazy.
So basically what happened this week is Comcast on the East Coast started rolling out data caps to huge amounts of its customers. So it had been experimenting, I think, in Atlanta and a couple other cities with data caps. And Comcast has finally decided to roll it out across most of its subscribers on the East Coast. Basically what you're getting with the plan that you have, if you're grandfathered in to 1 terabyte a month, which seems great. I mean,
seems like a lot.
It is a lot, really.
Yeah.
Now it's a lot.
Right.
The problem is now that we're starting to get into 4K streaming, and now we're all downloading our games, you can go through 1 terabyte pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think about it, like for us, it may not be that big a deal, but if you have a family in a house,
yeah,
and you have
that kid watching YouTube
dad,
videos 24/7,
mom, 3 kids, they're all streaming. Kids, that's all they do is stream Netflix.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of parents stream Netflix to babysit their kids. Some of my relatives do it. They put their kids down, they put on Bubble Guppies. They just run all of them, and the kid just sits there until you turn it off.
I've been stuck in that room before.
Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts on the logical applications of how Bubble Guppies does not follow its own premise. Look, they're all underwater, and there was an episode where a guy was falling over a cliff, and they had to pull him up with a rope. It doesn't make any fucking sense. There was another time when they couldn't go outside because it was raining.
Yeah. That's kind of awesome, though. I mean, you know the people who make that show. It's like Ren and Stimpy.
Oh, they don't care. Yeah.
Well, they're doing that on purpose for the adults, probably.
Well, they're mostly just annoying me. That's what.
Yeah. But
and one time it snowed.
Yeah. That's great. I love that. I think that's brilliant. So they're rolling out all these data caps. It's 1 terabyte a month. I think that I read in the comments on one of the articles about it that there was a guy who went in and wrote, he's like, it's me, my wife, and it's my 3 kids, and our first month we were at 1.5 terabytes. And the way it works is it's like an overage plan for your cell phone. Mm-hmm. So every 10 gigs you go over that terabyte, they charge you X amount of dollars. Or maybe it's 100 gigs. I think it was you go over 100 gigs, they charge you $50 or something insane. And he said that their first month's bill with their 1 terabyte cap was $350 for his internet. So let's bring this back so it relates to games. And we are on a show called GameFace. So let's talk about how this is going to affect us as people who play video games. And we're also tech-savvy people. A lot of us have cut the cord. I am right on the fringe of cutting the cord, by the way. Right there, right on the edge, man. PlayStation Vue has really got me right on the edge of getting rid of DirecTV. It is, I mean, I can literally get all the channels I watch for $40 a month instead of $130 that I spend for DirecTV. So I feel like this is good. This is something that's going to relate to everybody. I have fought cutting the cord harder than anyone, and I am finally about to break. And I feel like a lot of people are probably approaching that at this point. Does this turn everything around and send everything backwards? Because
if you're the cable company, you sure hope it does.
Do you hope it does? Or do you hope that people still keep streaming and still need your internet?
This, in my opinion, this is a last-ditch effort by the cable providers to basically, because Comcast is a cable provider, let's not forget, they want to drive you back to cable. Yeah,
that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to get people to go back to cable so that they stop streaming. Mm-hmm. This, along with throttling the bandwidth of things like Netflix, honestly, that's one thing that's kept me from cutting the cord, is the fear that PlayStation Vue will be throttled. and I'll just be able to try to watch regular television, and I won't be able to watch it, or it'll sit there and stutter.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Like this, I think this. You're going to see this happen more and more when Time Warner implements it. They are going to hear from me. I'll tell you that much.
I checked. No, Time Warner can't.
Time Warner can't?
Nope. For 7 years. As a part of the deal that Time Warner made when they merged and became the new company, they had to sign a deal with the government that they would not institute data caps for 7 years. But
oh, they're going to try.
On that day, the 7-year thing is up, they're going to cap it.
Well, unless between now and then the FCC shuts that whole thing down, because I think that is this is eventually.
I mean, look, they get away with it with mobile phone plans.
Right, but this is eventually. Mobile phone plans are not the same because mobile phones will always be seen as a luxury, but the internet itself is required to do everything now. It's a utility now. So eventually, one of these companies is going to overstep their cap bounds somehow.
There's already caps
and
going on.
There are, but I'm saying that between now and I wouldn't be surprised in the next 4 to 7 years. You end up going up on trial somehow, or up in front of the FCC, and it's going to be found to be tremendously anti-consumer, and because that's the thing is
what
you don't have.
What it's going to take is
you
some
don't have
Congress people to get screwed by it.
Pretty much.
We can write as many letters to them as we want and complain about it, but until they get screwed by it and they get a $500 bill,
when one of these Congress guys comes home, from wherever he is, Montana or wherever, and his family of 4 has run up a $380 internet bill because their kid just wouldn't stop streaming Caillou. It's that's when you're going to see some stuff introduced into the House of Representatives, and I think that's going to be more and more a factor. And look,
you're right on the money. It's
I understand what they're
by
trying
the cable companies to get people to quit cutting the cord.
Right.
Because they're like, well, wait, you think you're saving all this money? Well, not anymore.
Not anymore, suckers.
Because now you're paying triple for your internet.
At that amount of money, you might as well buy the Red Zone channel. Exactly. That's what they're after. They want you to drive you back to those services. And it's instead of, and I think this is what's going to sink them legally and in terms of whatever congressional discussion ends up being put into place on this. What's going to sink them is it's tremendous. It's by definition anti-consumer, and it's also. You could definitely make the same amount of money by changing with the times properly in a way that does not gouge your customers.
Right.
And instead of doing what is, to be fair, hard work of changing your business model to fit the way the consumers want to be now, the way that's kind of changing around the services provided, they're just trying to gouge you to the point that you give up and think it's too difficult to do this new thing and you go back to the old way. And by the way, that never works.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, though, if the government doesn't intervene, it could actually reverse everything.
Oh, it could.
We could, the games industry could go back to packaged products. I mean, you figure
But I think that companies like Netflix and Sony and Microsoft are not going to sit back and take that. I think that's the other thing is the lobby groups or the lobbying companies that are so heavily invested in streaming and downloadable content and the idea that you need that open and free. I don't have to worry about when I'm going to hit my terabyte cap to utilize this company's services to the degree that they want you to utilize them. That is where you're going, or even something like Facebook.
I mean, this could put Netflix out of business.
They're the ones that are going to go to Congress and be like, "Hey, you need to look at this." And they're the ones with the clout to do it, too.
It could put Netflix out of business. It could put PlayStation Now out of business. Think about, Gaikai in the game streaming
somewhere
service.
That last Blockbuster video store is just yes.
But look, if the government doesn't step in and this becomes nationwide, 1 terabyte cap, and after that you pay, as we start streaming 4K video, as these games keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger,
Gears of War is 80 gigs on PC.
Huge. It's massive. Even on Xbox One, it's 56 gigs. It took 6 hours for me to, from when I started downloading Gears of War 4 to where I started playing it, 6 hours. 6 hours. It took me almost 3 hours to get the Call of Duty beta to work, and it's only 19 gigs.
Yeah,
that's just PSN.
And all my dev friends, they're working on next round stuff. They're also in the realm of Ultra HD, in the realm of
the textures
of all that stuff. They're for for PC owners, they're like, be ready for 80, 100 gig downloads on the regular. Like, that's what they're going to be now.
I mean, Ultra HD textures. I mean, if you want to have textures that aren't compressed, like, they're going to take up a lot of space. You can only compress that so much.
And you do want that.
You do want it, yeah. I mean, textures stand out. I think were you saying Mafia 3?
Oh, Mafia 3, some guy on Reddit dug into the files and said that almost all the highest res textures were like 512 by 512.
Oh, my God.
They basically dumped the PS4 version on the PC and said,
good
luck.
PS4 should be able to do better than that.
They should, but this is not Mafia 3 is not a good-looking game.
Yeah.
But although it's still pretty big to download, it's if you're playing more than that many games and then you're streaming stuff, you're playing multiplayer. Like multiplayer is not a big data download issue.
Well, the other thing too is that like in the background, these games are updating all the time.
Right.
Like I had cleared a bunch of space off of my Xbox One and came back and tried to download Gears of War 4, and like my hard drive was full again. And I went and looked at like the log, and it had downloaded updates for like 25 games, and it was like another 30 gigs just gone. Like when you don't have these caps, you don't realize the bandwidth that you're using. That's, I guess, the point.
Well, I would have to uninstall like half my Steam library.
Yeah, I mean, because everything just, that's the other thing. It's like
because everything updates constantly.
Everything you own updates constantly. They're all on these schedules where like, here's new firmware, boom, it just starts downloading it. Like, we never have looked at the internet as this like finite resource where you have to kind of micromanage how much you're using it and like look at like how much have I used this month. I've never done that.
Right. No, and I think you're just going to hit a point where if it really does become a problem, if these caps are too low, you're going to hit a point where you have a congressional situation where they're going to have to basically say either caps can't be used or they're going to have to do some research and find out like, okay, the cap, you can have a cap, but it's going to be like 10 terabytes.
Yeah.
It's going to be some crazy high thing that only maybe someone's like,
see, because Comcast,
someone who's like just constantly using BitTorrent maybe would pay for the extra bandwidth, but it's like you can't throttle business like that, basically.
Yeah. Well, you pay more for I pay more money for the internet here. Right. Because I know it needs to be great.
Right.
Like I know we're streaming out of here.
And reliable and
I mean, I spend extra money, and that's the way it is. For a business, you pay more for a business account or whatever.
But people got to live their lives. People got to do their business, from home.
But that's the thing is, like, I work from home a lot of days. Like, for me, the line is so blurred already between, like, I look at, like, my house is like my workplace now, just as much as I look at this place we're sitting in right now as my workplace.
But it's like, and it does happen, goddamn fly.
Persistent.
And like with the, they have similar caps for the power here in LA, and I think everywhere.
That's right. Yeah.
But they have a similar cap where like you go over a certain, especially in the summer. In the summer, it goes over a certain limit, and now you're at a different pricing tier. You go over.
It's like surge pricing on Uber.
Basically, yeah. And there was a problem they had a couple years ago where I happened to me too. I got a bill for $1,400 one month.
For your electric?
For my electric bill. It's every 2 months. DWP. I got a bill for $1,400. And I was like, the hell? And it turned out that it was a combination of a couple things, but mainly it was their caps were way too low, and they had implemented this automatic meter checking digital system that was making too many assumptions and not reading things properly. And then when they went and sent a person to read the meters, it was basically like they had tremendously underestimated everything with the digital stuff. So then they got the real reading, and the reading was higher. So then they charged all the back charge, but then they didn't take into account what people had already paid. So people were getting like 6 months of bills all at once, plus extra because the cap. So you went over for the cap for that those 2 months, but you went over it because they were charging you for like 6 months worth of electricity.
It just gets messy.
And eventually, they ended up having to refund all this stuff, and eventually the state was kind of like, dude, the caps are pretty ridiculously low right now. Like you got to understand, and so like that's
this
all
is
different.
California where you have to run air conditioning in the middle of the winter,
and so that changed a lot, and there was a lot, but like. And now, I haven't run over that cap in 2 years since then, but pretty much because they changed that and fixed it.
But that's the thing. 1 terabyte, Comcast was smart because
it's just enough to make it seem like a lot, but then when you think about every little tiny, you're chipping away at it.
Right now it is a lot. Yeah. 1 terabyte is a lot right now. I highly doubt I go through anything close to 1 terabyte a month. No. I probably maybe 500 gigs.
Maybe in a month where I'm really downloading a lot. Although again, you're streaming constantly, if you're looking at HD streaming, like if you're watching a lot of Twitch,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like I've never that's like you say,
I've never measured it.
Like, no one looks, no one cares. You know.
I think it's still a lot. I think the average person probably comes in around 500 gigs, something like that. Like
but
I don't think they're.
But at the same time, like the main argument for it is like, well, the companies are like, fuck the company. Who cares?
See, Comcast is looking ahead. Like it knows that 4K streaming is coming. It sees that people are starting to adopt Ultra HD TVs, and that eventually, look, Netflix, there's already some stuff on there you can stream. It's what's coming, and so they set that now. They look like they're okay. They're like, oh, that's not bad. Thanks, Comcast. You gave me a terabyte? Like, I'll never use that.
But it's just that level where they're like, in a couple years, it's going to be more economical to go back to cable. And, you still stream your Netflix. You still use Netflix and Twitch and all that stuff. But maybe you won't use it for your sports viewing anymore. Maybe you'll use normal cable for that. Maybe you won't use it for streaming your, Hulu programs. You'll just watch them on DVR. That's what they want. Yeah. That's what they want the end result of this to be.
And I mean, look, it could have an effect on games where people start buying. And I still buy boxed games, like every chance I get. Like
I bought almost if there was a boxed version of a PlayStation VR game, I bought that because that means I can sell it back.
Exactly.
Because I don't know how much of this I'm keeping.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that in just a second. So, I don't know. I mean, I feel like if the government doesn't eventually do something to kind of mitigate this, and, we have kind of a 7, because Time Warner, whatever it's called now, Spectrum or whatever.
Spectrum.
It's basically a monopoly in L.A. I mean, unless you can get Fios. I still can't get Fios for whatever reason.
I can't get Fios. I refuse to get DirecTV because it's not on the same level in terms of speeds. Like, if I want decent internet speeds, I'm getting Time Warner or nothing.
Yeah, that's pretty much what... So we're covered for at least 7 years, but the rest of the country, not so much. So this will be something interesting to watch over the next couple years. Hopefully enough people can do what we did and kind of see what's coming on the horizon and get fired up about it.
Yeah.
But right now, people on the East Coast, these have been imposed on them, and there's nothing they can do about it.
It's going to take a couple of months of surprise bills, I think, and then you'll start to see some reactions.
All it's going to take is a senator to get a $1,000 internet bill from his kid watching Bubble Guppies or whatever, and that's what it'll take, and then they'll bring it to the floor, and it'll turn into some big whatever. So we'll see. But let's not talk about what's going to happen in the future. Let's talk about the future that's now. And that is PlayStation VR. Just launched this past week. Been spending a lot of time under the helmet.
Under
the helmet.
It's comfortable.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the hardware first, and then we're going to move on and talk about the games. So here it is, PlayStation VR. What's your first impressions of the helmet or the head-mounted display?
It looks goofy.
You think it looks goofy?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it looks like, I think all the VR headsets, this is not just PlayStation VR, I think all the headsets look like the 80s version of what a VR headset would look like. Yeah, like I feel like there's got to be a better way to do some of this stuff. It is by far the most comfortable and the best visually designed of the three, I think.
I actually think it looks kind of cool. I really don't have a problem
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I do think it looks like more thought was put into it than the other two.
Yeah.
In terms of the aesthetics of the visuals and in terms of how it fits on you.
Yeah.
I think the crown theory here, where it just goes on your head and sort of holds it up like that, I think that's better than the Oculus's sort of like Oculus and Vive sort of like press it to your face thing.
Yeah,
it takes some of the pressure off the front of your face when the goggles are on.
The comfort of this thing, I think, is amazing.
It's great.
It is really amazing.
I mean, I don't find any of the three uncomfortable, but this is a light year ahead of the other two.
It has. I've played this for, I think the longest stretch I played in a row was about 4.5 or 5 hours, and that was literally like I got it, took it home, sat down, and played like.
And it's the only one of the. I've said it before. It's the only one of the three my glasses fit in.
Yeah,
with no problem.
So the reason I think it's so comfortable is the way that you can adjust it. So back on the back here, there's this button that you can push in, and when you push that in, it allows the headrest to pull out, and it's kind of on a spring. Like if you let go, it'll snap back in. So you pull the button and then put it on your head, and you let it go, and it'll size up to your head. And then once you do that, there's this little dial on the back that you can, and it's crazy how just one click, you feel like this tightening on your brain, but it lets you kind of fine tune it. And one thing I've noticed about this is like, when I first got it and put it on, you know, when you go to events, like they put it on for you. And so when I put it on myself for the first time, I had like this strap like back here.
Yeah, no, it should be down.
And so the thing was always kind of like looking down, and I found myself like looking like through the visor like this. But yeah, it needs to be along the back like a baseball cap or something like that. And so then once you have that on, there's a button.
Although the headset does ride a little lower than you think it should.
It does.
I think for the maximum focal.
Yeah,
sort of.
I would agree with that. And then, so once you have it on properly, there's this button underneath right here that you can push. And what that does is it kind of scopes it. I don't know if I can do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, it does. Look, what are you doing, PSVR? There it goes.
There you go. So you can push it like into your eyes. And what I found is that I push it all the way in. Because the little gaskets, you see these gaskets like here, they're supposed to block the light out? That is probably my biggest complaint with PlayStation VR. Is it
that they don't?
They don't, yeah.
You can definitely see.
Even in a pitch dark room, you can still get light that kind of bleeds in from the sides. So I generally, I adjust that so that it comes all the way up to my eyeballs and seats against my face. The other thing I like about this display in particular is a lot of the other HMDs, they have porous materials that they're made out of. Mm-hmm. So if you sweat, it soaks up the sweat and it absorbs into it. A lot of times you go to trade shows, and it's disgusting, dude. If you're using a Vive or an Oculus, you put it on and it's just
I put on a Vive at trade show at an event where when it because it's foam, it's foam, and when it pressed against me, it was like a sponge, liquid came out of it, and I'm just okay.
So well, these all the headbands for this, it's like a rubber there and here, and so if you sweat or whatever, I actually have not sweated wearing this. I haven't had any problems with it fogging up. What's so fun?
What are you giggling at, Sam?
People getting sweating and getting fitness.
Actually moving, yeah. Well, I saw some guy that's been using Vive. He lost 60 pounds in a month and a half or something. So I guess it does work.
But most of the sweating in the VR stuff comes from the fact that you've got a giant monitor blazing right in your face, and you get. Well, but yeah, this is not nearly as sweat producing as the Vive.
I've never had it fog up. There's a little. You probably can't see it, but there's a little vent right here too. That I don't know if that's a. That's not a speaker,
I think it's a microphone.
Oh, it's the mic.
Yeah.
I thought it was a vent to let the air out. But I've had no problems with this fogging up whatsoever. I've worn it for 4 or 5 hours straight. I feel like it's completely comfortable. I'm a big fan.
And this comes off and you can wash it.
Yeah. You can just pop this kind of gasket off of there.
You can tell that this was designed by people who have made retail hardware before.
You're right.
On a mass market scale.
You're absolutely right.
It's designed by experts.
Yep.
And it has a professional quality to its design that the other two don't have. I don't think.
It doesn't feel like a piece of junk. I guess is the best way to put it. It feels like a quality piece of equipment. I'm not scared of dropping it or anything like that. I'll try not to.
Right.
But I'm not in fear of oh my gosh. When I set it down on the couch, I toss it under the couch. I don't set it like this, afraid something's going to get broken.
I've already started kind of holding it like this and just putting it over, putting it down like that. And whereas the Vive, I'm still very careful with.
And I would be too. Let's talk about what it's like.
Because also I feel like if something goes wrong with the Vive, it's going to be a much longer, harder road than if something goes wrong with this and I call Sony.
For sure. Yeah.
Sony, I feel like the customer service is going to be there and ready.
I think you want to know what I think really makes the difference with this is this right here. Mm-hmm. I think that's really adds a lot to the comfort because it puts a lot of the pressure evenly across your head instead of just being in one spot.
Mm-hmm. Well, also because it's and this is a solid plastic piece here. There's no and so basically
all of this is plastic, by the way. Yeah. I don't think there's any metal in this thing other than the jacks.
And so basically when you've got this thing on your head, whereas with the Oculus and the Vive are more of a net that sort of goes over the top of your head and holds it so the focal point of the pressure is right here in the back of your head. That's what's holding the weight. Whereas this is wearing a ring, a hat around your head.
It sits on your head.
That then supports the goggles kind of hang from it.
Yeah.
And so the weight distribution is much more even, and it's not that like they're super heavy to begin with, but like
it probably weighs what, like
a pound and a half maybe.
Yeah, it's probably 2 pounds.
And like, but it's like just the way it fits. Like, every once in a while, after a couple of hours with a Vive, sometimes I'll start to feel sort of the push on the back of my head, or on the front of my face, because it's also it's sort of clamped onto your head. Whereas this is sort of resting on top like a hat, and like there's no. If you've worn a bike helmet for any length of time, you've worn this.
It's actually the tech in this is all very similar to really good bicycle helmets.
Yeah,
very similar. Let's talk about the tech inside it. How are you feeling about it after spending, I played this at trade shows many, many times. It's different.
Yeah.
When you're actually at your house.
Right. It's not on the level of the Vive in terms of resolution at all.
Nope.
You can tell instantly that, like, okay, this is not running at the resolution that the Vive or the Oculus are.
Yeah.
It does feel like it has a wider focal area. I feel like there's less blur, and I feel like
you can adjust that too.
Yeah, and I also feel like it's not, the sweet spot is not as narrow as the Vive is. Here's the other thing.
I don't know.
The screen door effect is there, but it doesn't bother me as much as some of the stuff I've seen on the Vive.
It really bothers me, actually. I really hate the screen door effect in this. And if you guys are wondering what we're saying, it is kind of self-explanatory. When you're looking at games through this, it literally looks like you're looking through a screen, like a screen door. There's like a.
It's basically the limitation of the fidelity of the screen.
There's a very distinct pattern.
Yeah.
That's
it's
like
when you look close at
overlay.
like an LCD TV and you can see the pixels. Basically.
If you put your face up against like a flat panel and you can see like the individual pixels. Yeah, I mean basically what you're looking at is a 1080p flat panel that's like
right
3 inches away. So it makes sense, but it is off-putting to me. Like, I see it constantly. It's not one of those things that, like, you learn to not notice it after a while. Like, I notice it all the time.
I notice it more when the screen goes black.
Yeah.
Like, when it goes black, it feels like, because like, say, what you're seeing is sort of out here.
Yeah.
And then, like, the screen door feels like it's here.
Yeah.
And it can be distracting on a certain game. And it definitely varies game by game, because bright games don't seem to suffer from it so much.
Yeah.
But, like, if you're playing something like Batman, you're going to see it more often.
One thing I do like about this is that, so, you can cut back to us real quick. So on the cable, there's this control interface. And you can turn it on and off. You can mute the mic. And you can turn the headphone volume up and down. On the side here, there's a jack where you can plug your headphones in. I don't know if you can... Here, I'll turn it this way so you can see it. There's a jack for any, basically, 1/8-inch headphones or whatever. What I really like about it, though, is that the way the headset is designed, you can wear legit cans with these. So you can wear, like, a really good headset with these. Like, you don't... I've been using earbuds with it. But you can use, like, really good cans with this, and it fits fine. You might have to adjust the headband versus wearing, like, the same headset without the PlayStation VR.
I mean, I use my Bose noise canceling on the Vive, and I use them. I switched in. I've mostly been using earbuds on this just because it's sort of faster. But, like, when I set up to play Res, I got my noise cancelers, and it fit over this just fine.
Here's the thing, though. The 3D sound that my earbuds give me is amazing.
Yeah, it's good.
How are they doing that?
That's some kind of tech that Dolby figured out in the early 2000s.
Holy cow! It's like
mind-blowing. It's basically a way of tricking your brain.
I am really impressed with that, man. Like, these earbuds that I've had for like 3 or 4 years that I've just used to like listen to my iPod or listen to music or whatever, I plugged it into this jack and I'm like got transported to like Neverland. I was like, holy cow.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing what they're doing. Like, I don't know what it is. I mean, I've used headphones with
Have you played
lots
the
of
Batman
systems.
thing?
I haven't yet, no.
Yeah, the coolest audio trick Batman pulls, almost of any of these things, is there's a couple places where you pick up like a phone or a radio, and you can move it to your ear, and it does tracking, and it's completely believable.
It's really good.
And it's just I'm just using Apple earbuds. Like there's nothing special about what I'm using, but it's completely flawless in the way it works. And like And I mean, you can hold it to your ear, and you can hold it out here, and you'll still hear it over here, and you'll hear it over here, and you'll hear. I mean,
it's pretty amazing what I don't know what algorithm they did to do it, but
that I believe, and I might be wrong about that, but I believe that is a result of Dolby Labs stuff that comes out of the Pro Logic 2 technology from back in the early 2000s.
Nolan Elric is saying the processing unit does it.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense. It's like what is it? Like the receiver that I used to, because I didn't have true surround sound in the early 2000s. I had a Pro Logic 2 surround sound. It basically ran through a processor and the receiver, and it made it seem like surround sound. But it wasn't separate cables running to everything from, it wasn't separated out digitally by channel. It was just simulating the surround effect, and it was pretty close even then. I'm pretty sure that's where that comes from.
The processing unit, by the way, is a godsend. Because not only does it create this awesome 3D audio...
It reaches the couch.
Well, yeah.
Like that's the wires are kind of short. I think, but luckily,
the long cable for this is long. I mean, I have my console and the processing unit in my entertainment center, and then my couch is 8 or 9 feet away from the TV, and the cable will reach this all the way and snake all the way down to the ground and run evenly along the ground.
I had to take the processing unit out and put it on the ground between my TV and my couch.
So you're pretty far from your TV then.
I'm like 10, 11 feet.
Yeah,
but to give it enough slack to make me feel okay moving around with it, I had to take the processing unit out. But that's fine. It's not in the way or anything.
Here's the problem though with being much farther away from the TV. Even at 7 or 8 feet, your margin of error is so little. Because what happens is when you go to calibrate the headset, it will put a little square up on the screen, and then there's lights on the front. All these lights create it's like the fifth side of a die basically, and you need to line up those 5 lights inside that square that they give you. The farther away you are, the smallest movement will get you out of that square. You have to I had to go up and keep adjusting the PlayStation Eye camera to get it exactly at my head height.
Which camera? Are you using the new camera or the old one?
The old one.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm having height issues with it so far. It doesn't see as high as I think it should.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm sitting on the couch. Most of the stuff I've done has been sitting down.
I think I need to adjust it when I play Batman because you stand up for Batman, and it was not.
For sure. You definitely need to.
Yeah. So there was all these things where I was it was not seeing the.
That gets
the
annoying.
Controllers.
Having to adjust the camera, and for instance, I would play something, I'd have my wife sit down in the same exact spot on the couch. Which sucks. That's one thing I hate about it. It's you have to find this spot and sit in it and make sure you kind of stay in its zone. But my wife would sit down and she's shorter than me, so I'd have to go over to the camera and adjust the camera again to get the 5 dots inside the square or whatever, and then recalibrate it. It's not as free as what you get with Vive or even Oculus. It's just not. It's more restrictive. You could tell it was designed from the beginning to just be a seated sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then it seems over time they're well, that's probably not going to work because people are going to compare us to these other offerings. And I feel that's probably also why we're buying these 6-year-old Move controllers to play these games, because they're probably oh, well, if we need Room VR, we're going to have to find something. And we have these balls on the ends of these Move controllers that we can track already. And that's probably why they ended up using those controllers. Or maybe,
if you already got it designed, you might as well. I kind of wish they'd made the handles a little more ergonomic.
Yeah.
Because I still don't think they're particularly comfortable compared to the
they're not
Vive,
at all,
compared to the Vive, or especially the Oculus Touch.
They didn't do anything. They didn't release
No.
new ones. But they're selling the old
ones
ones
for
$100.
What the hell? And then people are running into the fact that the ones they've had all these years, their lithium-ion batteries have died.
Yeah.
So they have to buy new ones.
Here's a pro tip, by the way. You can go on Amazon and you can buy a pair for $50, $25 a piece. If you go buy one right now at GameStop, they sell a 2-pack for $100. It is the biggest scam ever.
That's how much they are.
And they haven't redesigned them.
Nope, they're the same
thing.
They're
the same exact thing that they sold for PlayStation 3. That pisses me off. And it should piss everybody off. It's really freaking lame.
And let me tell you, using them makes a lot of the games better.
Yeah, for sure.
It is definitely... it's not like some kind of super crazy, nobody's going to need this thing. It makes Batman better, it makes Until Dawn better, it makes a bunch of stuff better.
I'll say this, though. The foresight that they had to put the light on the front of the DualShock 4, that DualShock 4 works really good.
Yeah.
It's trippy. there's a lot of games where if you're using the DualShock 4, and it knows it because it has like the triangle-shaped light, you look down and the DualShock 4 is in VR.
Yeah.
Floating in the air. And you can move it around, and it's like right there, and you push the buttons, and you see the button go in on the DualShock 4. You can flip it, like, until you go completely upside down, when it can't see that light on the front of it, that's where it starts to get a little weird, but it's fun to just sit there and just hold your DualShock 4.
Here's the thing, like,
it's so funny.
It's not remotely on the level of the Vive.
Oh, I know. I know.
Coming to this from, like, the, to the millimeter accuracy of the
yeah.
Vive is sort of like, Batman sort of has the DTs a little bit now, where you'll pick something up and he's sort of shaking his hand like, and it's just
that has kind of been the poster child for that, though. That's the game that everyone shows whenever they say that it's janky.
Batman is by far the most jank of anything I've played. Probably because it's trying to kind of go outside the lines a little more than the other games. So on one hand, I'm willing to cut it some slack, but on the other hand, it sort of really shows the limitations of where they're at right now, at least with the PlayStation. I feel like this can get better.
This is the cut rate VR.
Sure.
There's no doubt about it. Like, it's like the old saying goes, you get what you pay for. But one thing I will say...
But when you add it all up, you're paying about $600 plus the system.
I had a lot of that stuff already, so it was like a better proposition for me, I guess.
But if you weren't one of these suckers who ended up with Move controllers and the PlayStation camera... you just threw $600 at this thing.
Well, no, if you can buy the bundle for $5. That has all that in it. It has the new camera, plus 2 Move controllers.
Presumably you bought a game or two.
Plus, you also get PlayStation VR Worlds. That's the other thing, too, is I would recommend buying the $500 bundle. I kind of regret it in hindsight, even though I had a lot of this stuff already. Like, if you do the math, it's like...
Yeah, but I pre-ordered that before that bundle went up. No. And then I didn't want to just switch over because I don't know. I think you're right. I would have preferred to have gotten the full bundle.
I regret getting the cheaper one now, even though I had the camera.
I didn't spend any more than that on because I already had the Move and the camera and stuff. But I kind of would like new moves and the new camera just to be sure that the old camera doesn't have some sort of shortcoming that we don't know about yet or whatever.
I only had one Move controller and I had the old camera, and so to me, like I would rather. I had to buy an extra Move for $25. I wish I had the new camera. I don't want to pay money, and we're going to get to the software in a second, but I don't want to pay money for PlayStation VR Worlds, especially after reading all the freaking reviews and playing most of the games that are on the demo disc anyway. It's like...
Yeah, I played the demo disc, and I was like, I feel like I've experienced what that thing had to throw at me.
Yeah, I have no incentive to like go and pay for VR Worlds now. So, the processing unit, I keep trying to go back to it. So... The processing unit is awesome for a couple reasons. Already you talked about the audio, or someone in our chat talked about how it does the 3D audio, which is amazing. But it also allows you to use the PlayStation VR head-mounted display as like a TV. It basically will display normal games in flat 2D, but when you look at it through the headset, you feel like you're sitting in a movie theater. Like literally, the screen seems like it's like 50 feet wide and like 30 feet tall.
Did you set it to be the large version?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. It's like, and that's the thing is like because I consider like maybe I could watch movies with the Vive and it'll look like a really big screen and there's like a cinema app you can get for stuff. I don't find it clear or good enough to do, but I think I could watch a movie on the PlayStation VR like that. It's less irritating for me for some reason. I don't know why that is.
It's an extra TV, is what it is. It's like if you're someone who has like one television and it's in the living room and. Sometimes maybe your wife wants to watch something you don't want to watch, or you want to play games while she's watching TV or whatever.
And if she can not reevaluate her life choices while you're sitting with that thing on, glowing next to her, playing stuff.
But seriously, I mean, it's an extra television, and not only is it extra television, because of the processor unit. And Sony, I gotta say thanks to Sony for doing this, because they could have built this proprietary connection. That wouldn't have allowed it, but you can plug anything into the processing unit that has an HDMI out and consume. You can play the Wii U on this. You can play the Xbox One on this. You can plug your cable box into the processing unit and watch cable on this. Anything that has HDMI out, you can consume it on this headset. I think that is absolutely awesome. I think it's a huge selling point for this. I love it. Like, it's a hidden feature that most people don't know about, and I think it's a big deal. It's huge, yeah. It's an extra TV. So, Thank you for that processing unit. First, when I saw it, I'm like, what the hell is that thing for, man? I don't need another little box. I still don't like that there's another box sitting underneath my entertainment center, but it's worth it for the functionality that
Man, this thing adds so many wires to my entertainment nest.
And and here's the thing. So
the wire situation with this is not any better than the Vive.
It's bad.
The wires aren't as heavy. But
but I still find myself constantly like taking a cable and like putting it down my side. The cables in the entertainment center is just jambled. Like today,
this one. Well, see, the thing that like confounds it to some degree with it is this thing, because like it seems like you should be able to have. You're supposed to have access to this when you want it.
Yeah.
But I end up trying to put this cord like the Vive behind me.
Yeah.
But then that removes the control.
You're right. But I don't want it hanging in front either.
Right. I don't want it hanging in front at all. But like it's no less awkward, I think. And it's not like a big deal, but it's there.
The cables in the entertainment center are a huge deal, though.
Oh, yeah.
It's a mess. And, like, today...
I am officially out of plugs on my...
Oh, I have nothing left.
Thing. Yeah,
I have nothing left either, because you have to plug
Sorry,
in...
NX. You're going to have to wait.
Well, I think I'm going to have to retire my Xbox 360 when...
Yeah, I think the 360
or actually the
going
Wii
out.
U.
Yeah.
I don't know. That'll be a tough decision.
I might leave the Wii U out, but I'll just unplug it and plug it back in as necessary.
But going back to what you were saying about Nest, is like, once I had it all hooked up, I felt like my PS4 was nested. Because I play games in our living room, but I capture in the back bedroom of our apartment sometimes, and I went to go capture Infinite Warfare stuff today, and I was like, damn, like, I gotta take all this stuff apart and then take it back there and then bring it back here and set it up, and it'll be dark when I get back from doing the show. I won't be able to see in here. Like,
I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to. Getting the PS4 Pro and having to do that LAN cable transfer.
Yeah.
Because then I gotta plug that in along with all the other stuff. Oh, my God.
Yeah. But you just brought up something that I wanted to talk about. So, what do you think about the PlayStation 4? Is it powerful enough to power this thing?
I mean, kinda. Here's the thing. I think the main problem is not the power of the PS4 so much as the resolution this thing runs at.
Really?
Yeah. Because, like,
it's 1920 by 1080.
Yeah, but that's not enough for something that close. And also, look at the resolution that it switches to when you activate a VR thing. It ain't running at that. There's no way it's running at that. Like I've taken the goggles off, and because it it still displays on the TV, and it's displaying in the same resolution on the TV as what it's displaying in the goggles,
No,
and
it's not.
It's like this weird
not,
kind of.
actually.
Is it?
No, that's another thing.
This does not seem like 1080 to me.
It is. It is 1080. The screen on the inside. What you're seeing on the TV is nowhere near 1080. And in fact,
no, it's not.
In fact, Sony, when they sent out free units to everybody, they part of the deal was if you covered it, because that's the only way you can capture footage of it. You could show it.
Oh.
But you had to put a disclaimer underneath that said, this is not the native display of the PlayStation VR
Well, because look,
headset.
when I look at that on my TV, it looks about the same as what I'm seeing in here.
Oh, I think it looks way better inside the headset.
I think it looks better because it's closer, but like...
Maybe.
Like, look, man, Drive Club VR is a blurry mess. And I like Drive Club VR.
This is what I was getting at. Like, I don't think it's the headset. I don't think it's the screen. I just think the PlayStation 4 is just too underpowered.
That's part of it, but I don't know how much further...
It just can't do it.
It can't, but like, look, I don't know how much better it's going to get just based on the limitation of the resolution on this thing.
Yeah.
It can only go so far, and it could be way better. I mean, PS4 Pro will clearly, because like one of the things on Drive Club VR is like, and we'll talk about when we get to the software, but one of the great things about that game is like you can look, you can look in the rearview mirror, you can look at, but when you look at the speedometer, you can't read it.
Yeah.
Like it's too blurry to read. Like it doesn't. Like the illusion is gone because of that. And I don't know how much of that is resolution and how much of that is just the system can't run it, like on the at the level of fidelity required.
It's the PlayStation 4 because there are some games that look great, and there are some games that don't. In fact, a lot of games that don't. Like the other thing I would say too is that like I feel like I'm always fiddling with it, thinking that I can adjust it and make it clear. Like, you'll get that sweet spot where everything is crisp and clean and the text is nice and clear, and then like 2 minutes later, like everything starts getting soft again and the edges start to get a little blurry, and then I'm like sliding it up on my head or sliding it down my head or pulling it out or pulling it in, trying to get it like crystal clear again, and I feel like I can never find the sweet spot and keep it. Like, I don't know what it is. Like
From game to game, you mean?
No, like While the same game.
I haven't really run into that.
I have, totally. And, like, I'll find myself, like pushing it out a little bit or pushing it in until it's, like, pressing against my face almost painfully. Like, just trying to find, like, that sweet spot where it always looks crystal clear. Like,
I might not have that because I'm already used to the not being a crystal clear spot in Vive. I mean, because there isn't one, frankly. I mean, like, you just get used to the fact, oh, this is just what it looks like.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
that to me is a big drawback.
It is.
It's
but
distracting.
But that's why I continually make the 2600 in television ColecoVision comparison, because it's like, yeah, those games look like shit. We were still enthralled by them because we love the idea and we love the medium.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, you're going to get used to the fact that, like, nothing looks totally clear in VR right now.
Yeah.
And it looks better in Vive, but it still doesn't look great in terms of, like, what we're used to in, like, a crystal clear HD image. You know, when the comparison between, like, what I'm playing on a the best looking Vive game, whatever that may be, raw data or what, I don't know. And then, like, I take the goggles off and I play, like, Gears of War 4 on my PC on the same on the same piece of hardware, night and fucking day. I mean, it's not even close. And this one, of course, it's still there, even though the PlayStation 4 games don't look as good as PC games. This is not running PS4 top level quality.
No.
Horizon Zero Dawn is not going to be there's not going to be a VR version of that here. You know, it's like you can tell, and some games find a way to strike that balance better than others so far. And I think Drive Club is the least successful at it in terms of what I've played, probably because it's based on a full-fledged, surprise, pretty good-looking PS4 game.
Let's move on, actually. Let's move on to the software and start talking about the games. They're hit or miss.
Yeah.
But I would argue most are miss.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I have struggled to find really good games. Let's talk first about Rez. Rez is a game both of us have loved for forever. Originally a Dreamcast game, came out on the PlayStation 2, had this crazy vibrating egg called the Trans Vibrator that women allegedly used for certain purposes at one point or another.
Well, at least one.
It was really hard. Yeah, it was really hard to find Trans Vibrators here. I ended up buying one in Japan when I went to Japan one time.
I got one for $5 in Japan.
Yeah.
They were clearing them out.
And then you could sell them on eBay for like $100 and some or whatever. I do feel a little dirty now that Rez has come out again, because it was one of those games that I had that I was proud that I owned. Seriously, though. I mean, original runs of Rez at one point were worth a lot of money. Now they're pretty much worth nothing.
It's been re-released so many times.
Right. This is one of the best PlayStation VR games.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
No question.
Look, as someone who really loves electronic music and is a DJ, the music is aged.
Yeah.
It's like electronica from like the early 90s. Like if you listen to like really well produced electronic music, like the music in Rez is not very good. And that's one thing I'll say. When it came out, it sounded pretty good. It sounded like a cut below what you hear in the club, but still passable. Now is like I would call myself an aficionado of electronic music. The music's not great, but
I think the music's great because it's Rez.
Well, I guess
because I like the music from when I played Rez back. When did that come out? Like 2002, 2003.
Yeah.
So like to me, it's like nostalgic now because we're old.
A lot of old electronic music has not aged well, I guess is one thing I should say. It's not just Rez. Like a lot of electronic music from that era does not sound good to me.
I mean, look,
now.
I'm not throwing my Orb albums on nearly as much as I used to, but like
well, actually the Orb stuff does hold up. They're one group that their music still sounds really good today. But a lot of techno and house from that era do not, and it was a little jarring for me. I don't think anyone else will even notice it. It's just because I've been into electronic music hardcore for 20 plus years at this point, and I have a really good ear for it. So,
well, other than the Rez soundtrack not being hipster enough for you, what do you think?
It's awesome. It really is. Like my stomach flipped over and over playing this game. Like literally, it wasn't motion sickness. It was like I was on a roller coaster and my stomach like flipped, like physically like flipped. Your mind is so powerful. That's what was tripping me up playing this. The VR, PlayStation VR in general is like,
and it doesn't even look real, but your mind still makes it that.
It's so crazy how your eyes and your mind work together to make something that's not there. Like I said, like feeling like you're going down a hill when you're just sitting on a couch. It's crazy. Like. That's the one thing I would say about PlayStation VR is like it is a cheaper alternative to get an extremely potent physical response.
Well, also I would say that like the Vive's strongest point is the room scale stuff,
Right.
like that thing. And I have not been especially impressed by the seated stuff with the Vive or the stuff I got from the Oculus store through the Vive.
Yeah.
But like even the bad stuff on the PlayStation VR launch lineup so far has taken the fact that they are stuck with the seated limitation and they have run with that.
They
shit.
really have,
Like
yeah.
they have found way more interesting ways to use the limitations of the way Sony has built this than they have with the Oculus so far, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas the Oculus has a lot of like, traditional games like Edge of Nowhere where you're just sort of like a virtual human camera looking at stuff. Whereas this is like, we're going to take you on a ride.
Yeah.
And like, tons of them like that. And some of them like where you wouldn't even
They
expect
put
it to
you in
be that
situations
amazing.
where virtually you're sitting.
Right.
So the fact that it just sort of compounds the realism because you're like, I'm actually sitting in that position right now.
Yep. And Rez, like, I was a little wondering, like, I played this how many, dozens of times, and like, will this really translate? And like, but I came out of that thing thinking like, so this is what Tetsuya Mizuguchi had in his head when he made this in
first designed it,
1999. Like this is what he thought of, and this is now we're finally experiencing it. And I frankly don't think I can go back.
Yeah,
like
no.
I don't think I would
I
ever
would never
play Rez
it
again.
in 2D. No
Yeah.
way. It's amazing. Like Rez is definitely. If you get PlayStation VR, Matt and I both agree this
For
is
sure.
one
This
of the
should be
games you should pick up.
Rez should be your first purchase,
Probably.
I would say.
I may argue something else here in a minute.
That's not a
Battlezone.
purchase.
Battlezone. You play it?
Yeah, I did. I like it. It's not great.
It made me sick.
Nothing made me sick.
It made me sick. Battlezone made me ill. You want to know what I love though about it?
Like physically, not like, oh my god, this is so terrible. I'm not.
No, like I got motion sickness from it. I will say one thing that I really loved is when it first starts and you're sitting in the tank.
Yeah, and you look around. Oh, yeah.
Well, it starts like you have a shield over the screen of your tank, and then it like gradually unfolds and opens up, and it's like this world. And like the roof is made out of glass too, so you can look up and like see this whole world through this like see-through shield. It really sinks you into the game.
Oh yeah, cockpit stuff is so good on
It
this.
really
Like,
is. Like I don't know if you noticed or not, but if you look to the left, there's like a little like thing with like for me it says like DIN fire.
Oh yeah.
And it like pulls in like your gamer tag stuff
Nice.
onto the HUD inside the vehicle. Like that's the thing about this. There's so much cool little stuff you discover playing these games, man. Like,
But I will say that like this one is. I mean, what you see is what you get on this one.
It's very simple. It's a cooperative tank battle game. I found it to be really boring. And again, I got motion sick from this game. Like I started getting queasy from it. Matt didn't. I don't know what the difference is between you and I. I generally have a really solid stomach. I can go ride roller coasters all day and never get sick.
I mean, but when you're on a roller coaster, like your brain and your ears and your balance and your stomach are all doing the same motion.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I guess you're right.
That's the
Yeah.
thing is like your brain's expecting motion to happen to your body and it's not happening and it's disorienting. And the reason you get sick when you are motion sick is because that's your body's reaction to poison.
No.
And if your balance is affected, that means you're intoxicated. It means toxin,
Yeah.
And so a natural response is to vomit in case you can get poison out of you.
Interesting.
That's why you throw up
That's
when you're
crazy.
motion sick. Because if you're not dizzy because of movement, you might be dizzy because you've been poisoned. So that's why that happens. That's why the scientists think that happens. So it takes a while. And I mean, look, I don't get motion sick from anything ever, period. But I think the difference between us on this one is that I've been playing VR for months on the Vive, and my brain is used to
You're right. It probably is it.
movement that is not occurring to my body. I
You're
think
right.
that's all. I think that's all it is.
Hopefully I get over the hump and it gets better because that's not the only game that made
Because
me
what I
nauseous.
will say is, and if we get to Drive, there are a couple things in this that made me go whoa, like vertigo, like dizziness wise.
Yeah.
And I know like Drive Club VR is being referred to as basically the vomit comet of the PlayStation VR launch lineup.
Yeah.
And it did not make me nauseous, but there's a couple turns on that thing where I was like whoa, and I'm like, if you're sensitive to that, Drive Club will throw you through the window. I guarantee you. So like I understand why people are having trouble with some of these.
So Battlezone, here's the thing, like
Battlezone-
as we start going through these games, what you're going to realize is that Battlezone is actually one of the more purchase-worthy games.
Somewhat, but it is bullshit that this game is $60.
It is. Is
Like,
it 60?
it is $60.
Oh my, yeah, screw that. Do not
It
pay
is-
full price for this game.
30 But 60? Fuck you.
Honestly, I would.
This should not be $60.
Yeah, that's bullcrap.
And
I can't believe
and
that.
I really enjoy it.
I had no idea that it cost $60.
Because there's no way you'd look at this and think it was $60.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, look, I love Tron. I love that there's like this Tron kind of element to it. Like, it's really convincing. It really feels nice to play. It's one note. It's this is all it is. It's just it's literally Battlezone.
There's hardly any nuance.
There's not much happening here.
Yeah.
But nothing in this launch lineup should be $60.
No,
nothing.
There's nothing.
And several of them
nothing
are.
we're going to talk about is worth the $60. I see Ulrich asking if Rez is worth $30. I would say no.
30 is steep. I bought it because I wanted something to play on my new system, but
it's not worth $30 in my opinion.
Probably not. I mean, I would wait for a sale.
It's only an hour long.
Yeah, but I would. It does have replay value if you dig it.
Yeah. I mean, there's scores and leaderboards.
I think it should have been 20. I think almost everything in this launch lineup should have been 20 or less.
Max.
Yeah. But 30 is a bit much. I'm not going to be happy when I look back at my bill for all the VR shit I bought this week.
I mean, I think even 20's pushing it for Rez. It is an amazing
Part
experience.
of it is because it's so old.
Yeah, and sometimes it's worth paying for that premium experience because it is one of the best experiences you're going to get on PlayStation VR.
Well, I wish I could buy it for my Vive. I think it's great.
My wife loved it. I love it. I mean, it's one of those games that when people come over, you're going to be able to put on, and they're going to be like, "Oh my god!" And you're going to be able to sit there and laugh at them, like freaking out while they play it. I still think $30 is too much for it, though.
I'd agree with that, but at the same time, like, you've already spent $400 on this stupid thing. Like, get the splurge on the thing that's one of the best uses of it. You know?
All right, let's talk next about Thumper. This is probably, and I know this sounds crazy, but this is probably my favorite PlayStation VR game.
I wouldn't go that far, but this is the nicest surprise, I think. It's super simple, and here's the thing about this game. It doesn't require VR. You can play it normally on the screen.
Yeah.
It is so much better in VR.
Oh, it's not even close.
Like it's hard to fully explain why it works so well in VR, but it's one of the best uses of the medium so far, and it's so simple and so it should. If you look at it, you're like, oh, it should be obvious, but it's great.
Now, here's one thing you'll never get about this game from watching footage of it that you're watching right now is that this game is dark and evil. Mm-hmm. It's got this crazy dark soundtrack. And all the visuals in this game, like right now you're just seeing all these neon lights.
Yeah, now you're like, oh, it's like Amplitude.
No,
right? Like, nope.
There is some creepy, crazy stuff in this game.
You end up in a couple of heavy metal covers in this game.
Yeah.
Like, basically, I mean, you're riding the cover of a Journey album to a Metallica album is basically what's happening here.
That's a great analogy. Because that's exactly like the ship from Journey's album cover.
I think that beetle is from the cover of Escape.
I think you're right. It was Escape. Yeah. That's the name of the album, yeah. You're getting glimpses of the real Thumper here, though.
Yeah.
I promise you're starting to see,
this is almost a Lovecraft game.
It's like a bad acid trip, is what it is. That's exactly. If people who have described to me they had a bad LSD trip, this is the type of stuff they said that they saw. There's this crazy, tentacles and, these unimaginable creatures. And I guess we should explain how it plays, too.
There you can see, that's one of the bosses there. Coming up over the horizon.
So basically you go down this track, and it's a rhythm game. So when those little bars come along, it's just like Guitar Hero.
Yeah, you're tapping
You need to tap the button along with it. And then, it'll send attacks down the track, and you have to time it exactly right, and then it will send the attack back at the enemy and attack the enemy.
And then you have to, you see those, light kind of curve bars on the side. You have to hit, you have to put the right direction and hit the button to scrape along them to prevent yourself from getting damaged. They add a whole bunch of, eventually you have to kind of do jumps over stuff.
Yeah.
It's more complex than you think.
It's a simple concept. It's hard.
Yeah, very hard.
It gets really hard really fast. The first couple of levels, you're like, oh, this is cool. I'm just going to glide along. And then by the third stage, you're like, oh, crap, man. I have to start thinking and memorizing and I really like it.
I will say this.
The VR perspective is great.
Yeah.
You come down some of those hills and you can see off into the distance, and it's just it's exhilarating.
I think this is if you're getting a PlayStation VR, I think this is the best value for the money it costs.
For sure.
This is priced right. It's priced low for how good it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, this might be my favorite PlayStation VR game. But let's talk. Actually,
It's not mine, but it's close. This is my number. This is, well, I don't know. Does
the next
the
one?
next no the next one isn't my favorite, but it's between the next one and this one for number 2.
All right, so here's what I'll say: is the next one is the most pleasant surprise for PlayStation VR, and that is Playroom VR. This game, you just download it for free. It costs nothing. And I don't know if you remember the Playroom for the original for PlayStation 4, but it was that thing that people were like having sex on. And here it's like this collection. Yeah, because basically what it was doing was it was allowing people to live stream.
Right.
Like parties or whatever.
Shows.
Yeah, exactly.
Burlesque outfits.
This is actually like a collection of games, though.
Yeah.
And I have to say that as far as like...
Tons of asymmetrical multiplayer stuff.
Yeah,
and
stuff
good.
where people sit on the couch while you have the helmet on. You're seeing some of it here. I've got to say, like, this is probably the best use of the hardware, these mini games. Like, it's not only just
and
like...
and this is another example of how the developers working on PSVR have really taken the limitation of it and run with it.
Run with it.
It's great.
It is incredible. There is a 3D platformer in this that blew my freaking mind.
The one platformer is like, because most of it's multiplayer, but the platformer is 1 or 2 players.
Yeah.
And playing the platformer in this, after like a minute or two, I was like, this is like when I played Mario 64 for the first time.
Exactly.
It was
like when I first played Mario 64.
It was like moment of like, oh.
I know people are going to groan.
No, people are going to be like, what the fuck? No,
you're going to knock it until you play it.
Yeah,
like,
this is amazing.
It's like you're the focal point of the world in the 3D platformer. So you're controlling this little guy. I don't even know what the hell those things are called.
I don't know, but they should be Sony's new mascot.
They should be, you're right. Like, they're probably the most recognizable
Get the hell out of here,
Sony's
Sackboy.
These
are
they should be
the new hotness.
But you control one of them in a fully 3D world, and it's like you're sitting in the middle of the level. And the guy is like running like all around you, and you can look in 360 degrees. It's like you're the camera, essentially. But he pays attention to you. So you're sitting in a chair, and it's this little dude about this tall down on the ground. And there's like foliage and like waterfalls, and you're controlling him running like all around you. And I don't know if you noticed or not, but you can get up and move and look around and spin around and control like him, and like it's crazy.
And then you're using your controller is actually floating there in the world, and you can use it to like grapple things and pull stuff down. And
then part of the objective is you collect other little guys like him. So the objective is to get him to the other little guys. Once you do, he like kicks them or throws them at you, and they fly, and a little hatch opens up on your DualShock 4, and they land inside the controller.
And they all wave at you.
And they wave at you when it opens up.
It's adorable.
It is so awesome. Like, I was blown away by this. I was just tripping out. It is...
It also reminded me of in the lab, the Vive, the free Steam thing.
Yeah.
There's a game in there whose name I can never remember, but basically what it is a bullet hell shooter, and you grab the little spaceship and you move it around in the space and around the bullets and shit. And it's like this game you've played a million times, but you've never played it like this. And that is what this platformer is like. It's
so
like there's
cool
nothing particularly new or innovative about what you're physically doing in terms of a platformer, but you've never played it like this before, and it changes everything.
Dude, it is so cool to just have the little guy just run up by your feet.
Yep.
And just have him like down there at your feet just looking up at you like, yo, what are you doing, bro? Like, it's insane. Like, it just, There are moments with PlayStation VR where you're just like, oh my god, this is like the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, as soon as I started playing that, I was like, oh my god, VR Mario is going to be the bomb. And then I realized it won't happen for like
a long time.
Ever maybe. But I'll take this. Like, it's good.
Also, the platformer and all the games in this, very good clarity.
No, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
It uses the hardware the best. Like, the visuals aren't blurry. They're crystal clear. Like, the field of view is amazing. It might be the best software for a PlayStation VR at launch.
And for free.
It's free. At the very least, it is the best pleasant surprise, without a doubt. It's not even close.
Do not dismiss this just
download
it's free.
it. If you get PlayStation VR, download it. I think it may even download... I think a little thing pops up on your dashboard.
Yeah, it automatically
prompting you
pops
to.
up when you connect the VR.
Yeah,
PSVR.
so it'll prompt you to do it, but download it. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't download automatically. Download it and play it.
Don't just pass this one up because it's free or because it's the playroom or whatever. It's like,
It's
no, you
awesome.
want to see this, especially if you have people over.
I was blown away by it. It was like, other than something we're going to talk about in a minute, it was one of the most powerful experiences I had with PlayStation VR. Now let's talk about PlayStation VR Worlds.
Mm-hmm. I did not play the full retail of this. I only played the stuff on the demo disc.
Oh, okay.
Which seems like it was
That's
enough.
fine, because I played the demos on the disc and I played the final version, and you get it just by playing what's on the demo disc. Although the demo disc is missing some of the games.
Yeah, you can't play all of them. But
Yeah.
I played the go underwater with the cage thing, and I played the heist thing, and what was the other thing? Oh, the ball thing, the danger ball or whatever that thing. I'm glad I didn't pay $60 for it.
I would just tell you right now, do not buy PlayStation VR Worlds. It is not worth the money. I don't think it's $60.
I thought it was.
Is it?
I
Is
thought
it
it
full
was. I
priced?
might be wrong, but I thought it was. If it was a more bargain price, I would probably think about getting it. But I want to say it was 60.
Pretty much all the
Chat will
games in
correct
it
me
are
if I'm wrong.
throwaway. Really, honestly, the only game in this that
Nolan
really...
says it's 40. That's still too
That's
much.
what I thought. It was cheaper.
It's
But
still too much.
the only game that really has any longevity to me is like the ball game. Like, because it's just like a sport that you can play over and over if you really want to and you get into it. Everything else, like, it's a novelty.
Yeah.
You do it once and you're like, I get it. I really don't have any interest in
If you
doing
really
it
want
again.
like some kind of weird like novelty thing, and again you're dropping to the ball thing, but one of the other demos on that demo disc is called Headmaster,
Yeah.
and it's a soccer like
In prison.
Yeah, soccer in prison, but it's also got a really big like kind of a Portal sort of
Yeah.
angle on in terms of the humor and how it's
Yeah.
presented. I thought that was more engaging than everything on VR Worlds put together.
No, I'd agree with that, without a doubt. But yeah, I say take a total pass on VR Worlds, and it's crazy too because
Play it on the demo disc and never look at it. Also, that demo disc takes up 40 gigs.
I know
What
that's
the-
ridiculous, dude. But I really thought the PlayStation VR Worlds, and that's why I bought it. I really thought that it was going to be like the showcase for PlayStation VR. Definitely not the case. Yeah, so I take a pass on that. Riggs. Mechanized
Too old for this shit.
Robot League. This is another one that I bought, and I
Mechanized combat
completely
game.
regret it.
I did buy it. I don't regret it, but it's still too. It was still too much.
This
Cost too
game
much.
made me the most sick out of any of them.
Really?
Yep. This game, I could hardly get through the tutorial, which is
Wow.
way too long, by the way.
Yeah, it is long.
The tutorial in this game lasts like 40 minutes.
By the way, there's no way to skip it once you've already done it.
Oh, I know. It's insane.
It's stupid.
It's really dumb. I get completely... I literally... This is what ended my first day's session with VR, with PlayStation VR. I had played everything else, at least for a little bit, and I was like, all right, Riggs is like the one full-featured game. Like, it really is like the one completely robust full-featured
Yeah,
game.
I mean, it's got a
That's
campaign.
why I bought
it's
it.
got multiplayer.
That's why I bought it. I was like, this is the one game that, like, you know, I will want to spend a lot of time with and get good at. They have, like, this whole esports, like, structure built into it. I got about an hour after I finished the tutorial, and I literally took off the headset and laid there and almost vomited. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being dramatic. I felt sick.
Wow.
Like, so sick that I laid there until I felt like I wasn't going to puke, and then I basically crawled to bed and went to sleep. Like, I'm afraid to play it again. Because it lasted for like an hour and a half after I stopped. I was still laying there feeling like crap, and I'm afraid to put the helmet on again. Like, you've had no problems with this at all? You aim with your face.
Yeah. Yeah.
You do not aim with the analog stick.
No, you move with the sticks. And I didn't make me nauseous at all, but the thing that it kept confusing me because I kept forgetting not to aim with my face, and I was trying to
me
use the
too.
right stick.
It was like,
and I'd constantly end up in a situation where like the mech was facing like this way, and I was facing this way, and like I was
know.
aiming
It's
at the
completely-
wrong thing. Like,
I'm assuming eventually you.
I didn't get nauseous, but I got pretty
doing this.
frustrated. Yeah, a little bit. I love the idea of it, and I like the chunkiness of the mechs, and it feels like you're in a big moving thing.
It's
and all that
one of
stuff.
the
It's
best
cool.
looking
Oh, it
games
definitely
as
looks
well.
looks really good. It's very
on
clear,
a technical level,
bright.
as far as like the polygonal graphics, like they're nice smooth curves. Like it's not like a lot of other PlayStation VR where there's a lot of angles and nasty textures. Like it's the closest thing you're going to get to a AAA PlayStation VR game. I mean, It's the highest quality. It's the most robust. But again, like, if you're like me and it makes you sick, it doesn't matter. Like I said, I'm scared to go play this game now. Like I'll do it again, but as soon as I start feeling queasy, I'm going to stop and I'll just sell it or I'll give it away. But I want to be able to play this game. Like,
I played for probably 45 minutes. Like, I don't know.
So you made it through the tutorial then.
Yeah, I made the tutorial.
And that's about
I
it.
just feel like there's not a lot of meat to it in terms of what you do. Like there's, you kill 3 guys, you go into overdrive, you jump through the goal, like, done, whatever. Yeah. It's like...
Well, I think for VR, it's going to be hard to make things complicated.
Yeah.
Because, again, you're aiming with your face.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is, like, it's so complicated to do something so simple, and in the end, it's not particularly rewarding when you do it right.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how long... I'm not afraid to go back to it, but I don't really feel like going back to it, and I might end up just trading it in pretty quick.
All right, we got to move on. We got a lot of games to talk about still. Until Dawn, A Rush of Blood, on-rail shooter where you sit in basically a roller coaster car.
Yeah. This is my favorite PSVR game.
Wow.
And I don't know.
I can understand it.
I don't know if I was biased beforehand because Jim Sterling talked it up so much. Not that I listen to everything Jim Sterling has to say about everything, but I was like, really? Like this? And I put it in. I'm like, okay, Jim Sterling, prove yourself to me in the form of this game that you didn't make.
Yeah.
And like, it's pretty fucking good. Like, I'm not a horror person really. I don't find this stuff scary. I think it's silly, but like this thing rides the ragged edge between silly and functional, like
no, it's
scary.
Kind of terrifying parts of it.
It works. Like, and the thing is, like, every horror cliche is in this game.
Oh yeah,
and,
right at the beginning.
Oh, right.
With all the pigs and everything.
It's all the pigs, and there's clowns, and there's zombies, and there's ghosts, and there's a creepy girl singing Frere Jacques, and there's flashes of carnival stuff, and then there's like beheaded people, and then there's creepy naked dolls, and then there's creepy naked dolls with video cameras, which for some reason is really scary, and I never even thought about that before. And then like you end up in a dollhouse and everything's giant. I mean, like, look, it takes every cliche of horror, mashes them all together, and just like commits to it so hard you have to admire it.
I'll tell you why this game is scary though. It's because of what you were saying earlier. Because you're seated and you can't get away.
And it's just
so when they start rushing at you and like if you unload and you're out of bullets, your heart goes ba bum ba bum ba bum.
Well, and the other great thing about it is that you're seated and you've got 2 guns. This is, by the way, I think is also one of the most the best tracking games with motion controllers.
The aiming is
it's right on.
Yeah.
Like the PlayStation Move controllers are always at their best when they're pretending to be a light gun game.
Yeah.
But so I thought that works really well.
It does.
Here's a great thing: the guns have flashlights on them. So, like, you're looking, it's very dark, and you're looking around the flashlights, and you're shooting stuff, little targets.
Yeah.
And this game knows exactly when to deactivate your flashlights.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And every once in a while, it does that, and you're like, oh, shit. And there's a lot of sound, uses the 3D sound really well.
You can see it right there. They're just showing the flashlights.
And so, like...
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. And the roller coaster thing is done... This is what I was talking about with the sound thing, by the way. The first time I played it, some glitch happened, and the roller coaster tracks stopped making sound. So all the things where you're supposed to be going through everything, like the roller coaster's straining and creaking, like all that was totally silent. So it was just like total silence, rolling through these like crazy downhill things, and every once in a while a clown would be like, and I was like, yeah, this is just funny now.
Yeah. But look, at the end of the day, it really is just a light gun game.
Yeah, it's House of the Dead literally on rails.
But it is the best light gun game I've ever played.
Oh, it's great.
Because it's legitimately is scary.
I mean, and it's like, it wouldn't be scary or interesting, really, if it was just on a 2D screen.
Oh, I wouldn't even care
because
about
you're like,
game.
okay, whatever. But when you're going through that giant pig's mouth and you're looking way up at this huge thing, I mean, the scale of it just works.
The bosses, they're not even really bosses, but they're enemies that are like 5 stories tall. That's the other thing about VR, people. Like, if you haven't really experienced it yet, like, fighting a boss or seeing a big creature in VR will freak you out. Like,
the scale is that
it's unreal.
Even in the Batman thing, it's just like, damn, Batman's really tall.
And he's big and strong. Huge. Like, you get like the scale of everything.
Yeah.
Like, just it makes me think about all the old games that I've played. Like, if I could have played these games through the eyes of this VR helmet, how impactful they would have been. Like, I think back to
what was that game?
Zelda and bosses in Zelda. Like, there's a couple like adventure games, point-and-click adventure games, and like they'll have like cutscenes or whatever, where like a huge robot flies in. I think about playing old games just in flat 2D, and I just sit there and be like, whatever, big robot. You're sitting there, and that robot comes in, and it's the size of a house. You're like, holy crap, man! Like, I said this way long ago, that it's going to make simple stuff seem so impactful, and it totally does.
What's that one game that like I didn't get? I played the demo on the demo. It's like Wayward Skies or something like that.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, like that giant that robot comes in, and like I thought of the same thing. Like I'm like, okay, so the robot's running around doing stuff and in 2D whatever, and then it switches to the perspective of the character, the girl you're playing as. And like the thing is
terrifying.
Huge. It's like, yeah, that thing could crush you with one hand. I mean, it's just like it's ridiculous.
And then he has like someone in his hand,
yeah.
and you're like, dude, you made one mistake.
I'm like, you're gonna kill that guy. What are you doing? You know,
it's insane. It is insane, people. Like I'm telling you, like you have to experience it. You can't. You can hear people talk about it like forever, but until you have that thing on, and it's just, and like again, like Rush of Blood. Like the boss fights in that, where there's like this 6 foot tall, like like 6 stories tall serial killer being like, bro, you're like, holy crap! Like,
and like the thing, you know, I don't get scared by, you know, I'm not a horror like.
I get scared. I got scared a lot.
Didn't scare me in Russia because Rush of Blood's exactly the right balance between ridiculous and you know and playing the scares up right. That I'm just like, oh, this is tons of fun. I was having a good time. The next thing we're going to talk about. This one got the kitchen.
All right, this didn't scare you.
It did.
Oh my, dude! If this didn't scare you,
well, it more scared me in the sense that like you know it has full control over what it throws at you and when. So like yeah, you're gonna shock me by throwing something in my face.
Dude, this is the most impactful VR demo I've ever played. Like it shook it. I did it once at E3 like 2 years ago. And like you know at E3 it's like loud and boom 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 and I couldn't really hear what people were saying or what was really going on. This is one of the first things I put on my PlayStation VR. It's on the demo disc. If you're in Europe, you can download it for free. Holy crap, man. Like, that is some scary freaking crap. Like, you're going to see it here. I mean, basically all it is you wake up in a kitchen, you're sitting on a chair with your hands tied, a video camera in front of you, and there's some other dude laying on the floor.
Huh. I didn't manage to knock the thing
You
over.
never knew you could knock it down?
No. The guy got up and knocked it over.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. And so this guy starts begging for help, and then
I never played this in VR until yesterday.
And then the 3D audio.
Yeah, 3D audio is good.
Where you start hearing like stuff scurrying behind you, and you start looking behind you. You're like, "What is that? What is that?" It's terrifying. If this is what Resident Evil 7 is, I don't even know if I can play it.
Well, I would never ever think this was Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Like this is such a shift. I mean, it's a good shift because it works.
But
does
it work?
But it's like I would never have thought this would be the direction they take Resident Evil.
And
bravo to them for being brave enough to do that.
I mean, I don't know if I could play a whole game like this, man. I would be scared of playing it. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, it's just like, do you want to terrorize yourself? It is terrifying, this demo, man. Like,
well, one of the reasons I would never have called this as Resident Evil is because the threat is real. It's a human being, basically, you know?
I don't even know if I want to keep showing this, because I don't want to spoil it. Actually, take this off. I don't want to spoil this for people who may play it. Like,
you don't want to see, because it's very short.
You want to experience this,
You've just seen half of it right there. I mean, it's very short.
I don't know if that's half, but
pretty close.
There's a bunch of stuff that, anyway. It's awesome. Awesome, awesome. And if that is Resident Evil 7, it's going to scare the living crap out of people. My wife just watched the screen, not even in VR, and was like, oh, no. I could hear her just going, no. Like, she quit watching and walked out of the room, like, yeah, the kitchen. The most impactful VR demo I've ever played. First thing you should probably do whenever you get it.
It's fun.
It's really freaking cool. It gives me huge hopes for Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, it gives you a nice, I don't think I was as taken with it as you are, but like, it gives you a really nice glimpse of like what is possible.
Yeah, I mean, the graphics suck.
Yeah.
I'll say that much. What's possible with like PlayStation 4 Pro? That's the other thing I would say. Like, if you don't have VR, PlayStation VR, and you don't have a PlayStation 4, buy the PlayStation 4 Pro.
Yeah.
Just do it. Pay the extra $100. Batman Arkham VR. I have not played this at all.
I think I God, I think I might be almost done with it at this point. I only played it for like an hour. It's good. It's overpriced. It should be $10, not $20. If you love the Arkham games, it's really cool because it puts you in that world. You know, so like you're standing around in the Iceberg Club, and then you look around at all the cool, Batman and Gotham stuff, and that's really neat. This is the one that exposes, I think, the flaws of how the limitations of the system to some degree in a bad way. Whereas we were talking about how they use limitations to make themselves more creative in some of these other games. In this one, it really feels like this game wanted to be room scale and it's not pulling it off. So I had to readjust the camera a couple times because it wasn't registering stuff. It has a very narrow kind of sphere you can move in, and then a couple times it put things out of my reach. A couple times, where like when you have to reach out and grab the bat suit and put it on, when you have to reach out and reassemble a simulation of this detonator cap thing, I couldn't reach the
Far
thing.
enough.
I would reach out and my hands would disappear. The in-game hands would disappear because it was outside of where the camera was willing to see close enough to it or whatever. And I'm 8 feet back. It's not like I'm crowding the camera with this thing. And I had to switch it a couple times. I had to switch it to seated mode so I could reach out far enough to get. It was very awkward in places, and I don't know if that was my setup being wrong, but I recalibrated tons of times.
Universally, this game has gotten the most criticism for being janky, for lack of a better word.
And part of the reason it's janky is trying to push the envelope a little bit. And sometimes it succeeds. There's a lot of little flipping switches and doing forensic stuff, which is really cool, very Batman-y. There's in the Batman games you have the thing where you replay the crime scene. You can do that in person now. Hey, if you love Nightwing, Nightwing is all up in your face doing some cool shit. If you're a big Nightwing fan, this is a game for you because Nightwing gets to do some cool stuff in this. Also, in the Batcave, there's a little holographic file thing where you get to look at all the different characters and the project. Do the people Batman's friends with, do they know that he has a little thing that he uses to project a life-size holographic display of them in front of himself and make them do little poses?
Probably not,
because that's weird.
It is, yeah.
But it's kind of a little love letter to the Arkham games, and it made me.
You can see the shaking here in this footage.
Batman has some intentions tremors apparently because every time you pick something up in this game, it wiggles around weird. And
or it just disappears.
He just dropped it because you grab this thing and then at a certain point, once you he's trying to look down the barrel of the scanner.
That's what you get for $400.
Yeah, and I'll wait for a Steam sale, but I'll buy this for Vive when it comes, when the exclusivity period ends next year, and I'll put, I'm interested to play. I'd be interested to play this with, better motion tracking.
This is about an hour long, right? Unless you do all the Riddler stuff, right? At the end.
I already did all the Riddler stuff.
So how much time did you get out of it ultimately?
Judging by I haven't finished it yet, but I'm thinking I probably got about 90 minutes total.
Oh gosh,
would be what I get.
And it's $20?
It's $20.
Yeah.
So I would say it should have been 10.
If you're a Batman fan, you should probably get this.
Also, look, as someone who hated Arkham Knight, this made me feel a lot better. To some, it got back to there's no tank in this one. You can play.
It would have been awesome if they trolled everybody and the whole goal was to get
Battle
into
Zone.
the tank. Yeah.
It's just a Battle Zone reskin. That would be great. That would be amazing.
All right, let's move on. We are running out of time. We're getting up against it here. Drive Club VR. I haven't played this either.
I played the demo on the demo disc. I did not buy it, the full thing. So you play one race. It's great in terms of simulating a car experience. It's super blurry. You're looking ahead, you're is that a right turn or a left turn? I don't know. You basically have to kind of guess until you can make out what the arrows say or what the turn looks like. So the depth of field is a little off. But the feeling of being in a car, of the motion of the car, of being able to just look up and check the rearview mirror, of being able to, that's all. You can't read, like I said, you can't read the speedometer because it's too blurry. But
how does the cockpit view look overall, though?
It's great. I mean, it's it feels like you're inside. And as soon as you get in, you can look at the car outside, and you hit the thing to get in. You get in, the door closes, and it's just the exact feeling of having being inside something. It's amazing. If they, maybe on PlayStation 4 Pro, it will be sharper and better in that regard. Because if PlayStation 4 Pro makes this game less blurry, like maybe by 50 to 60%, I will buy it, no question, because it was a really cool kind of tech demo for what is possible in terms of a racing game.
How did you get a demo of this?
It was on the demo disc.
I didn't even see it on the demo disc.
It's in there.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's a bunch of stuff in there. Keep going. There's a bunch of stuff in there, and it was fun. It is the only game. I mean, other than when the roller coaster first goes, when Thumper first starts, you get a little flip in your stomach from oh, here we go down a hill or whatever.
Yeah.
This one, when I would certain turns, and it was also because you go, it's just the same racetrack over and over. The same turn every time, I would get this massive vertigo shift.
Wow.
Where I'm like, whoa! And it was the same turn all the time, like 2 specific turns in the course.
Huh.
And I don't know why, and I don't know what was happening there. But I just playing that and experiencing that, I can totally understand why people are having such nausea problems with this one. But it's so cool. What they're trying to do is so cool, and it's just not quite there yet, probably because of a tech issue.
How much is that selling for?
I want to say it's $20 if you already have Drive Club. On digitally or whatever, if you have the PlayStation Plus version or whatever. And then I think it's $30 without that.
Okay.
But
again, this is one of the more robust, legit games for PlayStation VR.
Oh, and someone's asking about the illusion of the wheel versus a pad. I did not find it to be a problem not using a wheel, but I'm not a wheel.
I think the wheel would help.
The wheel would definitely. The wheel would make it amazing on a whole nother level if it was not blurry.
Yeah.
I would probably not. I mean, look, at the point that I'm using a wheel in front of the couch and the goggles, and I'm just at a certain point you got to reevaluate your life.
Like what we're seeing right here. This is Sony's official UK YouTube channel right here.
Yeah. So I guarantee you that would be amazing.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
I don't think I will do it in my living room. But if you're a hardcore, here's the thing: if you're a hardcore driving,
that's pretty mind blowing. Look at that.
It'd be amazing. The head track. I mean, this is the track IR thing writ large. Is what we always imagined it was.
Yeah.
And so, I can't recommend trying the demo enough, but I wouldn't buy it until the PlayStation 4 Pro proves that it's going to improve that experience a little bit.
That can be said about a lot of these games.
True, but that one more than almost anything, I would say.
Here They Lie. Have you played that at all?
No, I didn't play that at all.
So it's funny. They try to make it seem like Sony Santa Monica developed this game, but it was really made by some small studio with, I don't know, consulting by Sony Santa Monica. But it's basically the first full-fledged horror game for PlayStation VR. It has its moments, but it mostly relies on jump scares. Jump scares are really effective in VR, by the way.
Yeah, because
it's really dirty and kind of cheap. To be honest,
you can't get away from it. Basically,
nope. There's no escaping it. Other than that, it's pretty much a really generic action adventure game. It's pretty low quality as well. I was actually surprised that Sony Santa Monica put its name on it. I could see them working on it behind the scenes, but to put its name on it, I thought was maybe not the best move. I would not buy this. I think it was $40, if I remember correctly. I don't know. I just looked at the total that I spent, and I was like, ouch.
Almost everything seemed to be $40, the retail, except for
Riggs was $50.
Riggs was $50, Battlezone was $60, and then something else was $62.
Yeah.
Which I also thought shouldn't have been $60. I don't remember what it was.
I mean, this game isn't bad. It's just, you can just tell while you're playing it that this was their first stab at this genre, and eventually you're going to look back and say it is bad. But right now the technology is so new that it's if you're looking for a horror experience that lasts longer than the kitchen, which is 5 or 10 minutes.
I think it's less than that.
Yeah, maybe.
I think the kitchen is about 3 minutes long.
Really?
Yeah.
Man,
it was
seemed
over
an eternity. Because I was so scared. But if you want something a little more full-featured, this is pretty much the only game in town. So if you want something horror-oriented that lasts more than a couple minutes, that's your only bet. Otherwise, I recommend against it. And finally, Job Simulator VR. This game already came out for Vive and Oculus, I believe, months ago.
I played it on Vive. I have not played it on PSVR.
Yeah.
Which when I think about it, I probably should have because that would have been a good comparison metric.
I played it.
I did play Eve Valkyrie, which was.
I have not played that yet, actually.
So,
but that's been out on Vive. And
it's not on Vive, but it is on
Oculus.
Oculus. It's coming to Vive later this year. And certainly, the difference between Oculus and PSVR is very obvious if you've played both versions of that.
Right, yeah.
Still,
although Eve Valkyrie looks pretty good
that's the other one.
though.
That's the other one. Is $60. It should not be $60.
Yeah. That should probably be $30 or $40.
Yeah, it's also. I mean, it's $60 on the Oculus store too. I think, or $50, which is still too much. But
all right, so let's wrap everything up here, Matt.
if you're gonna get one Eve thing on the PlayStation VR, I get Gunjack. Gunjack is better. Gunjack's it's like $10 or something.
It's better than Valkyrie.
It's not better than Valkyrie, but it's more appropriate for the price.
Got ya.
Yeah, it's if you liked what was that game that came with every single 3D card back in the day? The turret shooting game. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I know you're talking about. I can't remember.
I think it began like an eye or something. You know.
I don't know. I don't remember. I know what you're talking about.
It's like that, but for VR.
Yeah.
And that's fun.
Yeah. All right, so it's time to wrap everything up here. It's time to deliver letter grades for PlayStation VR. Matt, what are you going to give it?
The hardware overall, or like the actual software?
Let's do hardware and software.
I'm going to give the hardware like a B. I'm going to give the overall a B. Like it's, I would give the Vive probably an A minus. Mm-hmm. But I think despite being definitely the, what you pay for, like, I don't feel like I'm getting a lesser experience in terms of sort of the overall, this is what VR is out of it. Like I would never like look at someone who only has PlayStation VR and be like, oh, you poor soul.
Right.
You only know what VR is, this tiny keyhole.
Right.
It's like, no, this is a full-fledged, like, real deal experience. And there's some stuff on this that is better than anything I have on Vive.
Yeah.
Like Thumper is awesome.
Yeah, it is.
There's
a lot of really amazing experiences.
Yeah.
There's just nothing that's especially lengthy right now.
Yeah, and again, it's a bunch of tech demos to some degree.
Yeah. But a lot of them.
But a lot of them are really good.
And there's a lot of them.
And again, I definitely think this deals with the seated experience limitations better than the Oculus library.
Yep.
I think they've thought outside the box better, and even Rez does it better in the sense, and that's a 15, 16-year-old game.
Yep. So I'll give the hardware a B+. I've only really tried VR at trade shows. I've never been at anyone's house who had it and got to sit and really try it for extended periods of time.
That's because you won't come over.
You never invite me over.
I'd say you can come over.
People. So I've never had the chance to really dive into VR for an extended period of time. It was always like 10 minutes here, walk across a convention hall, 15 minutes here. I would say that my first night with PlayStation VR at times almost bordered on a religious experience. I know that may sound crazy, but I truly felt like I was seeing...
You get caught between the moon and New York City.
Apparently, yeah. I mean, there were just moments where I hadn't felt this way playing video games in so long.
I mean, that's how I felt about playing Star Trek at E3.
It's just totally different. Like I said, I felt like playing Super Mario 64 again. Like, and playing that platformer that's in PlayStation VR Room or whatever the hell it's called. Like, there's these little moments that you have where you're just like, oh my god.
They missed an opportunity by not calling that place Playroom.
Yeah, you're right. Look, it has technical limitations. I hate the screen door effect. It really bothers me. Several games made me sick. Riggs, literally, I was on the fringe of barfing and felt like death for an hour and a half. Just for everything else, there's no way to put it into words. Like, even people who have gone to Best Buy and played around with it for a little while, like, you're still not really getting it. Like, I had played VR so many times. I mean, I talked about it on the show before, how I thought it was going to turn what we used to think mundane things were in video games into something exceptional again, and I prophesized that it would change my perspective on games, and it has. But even more so. And knowing that these are the early games, and this is like the first round of stuff, like the prospects for it, I really like it. Like, I don't think anyone... I think, in a week, when I've gone through all the games, like I may look back and be like, man, maybe it was a little too expensive. Like, that's one thing. I do wish it was at a more consumer-friendly price.
Yeah, I think it's all way too expensive right now.
Yeah,
but I think all
across
VR
the board.
Yeah, not just PlayStation VR, but all of it.
Yeah, and so if you're on a budget, like, I wouldn't begrudge you for not picking it up. I would totally get it, because I will say, like,
Again, for any
we've
VR,
played everything.
I said the same thing for Vive, and I'll say the same thing for this. Only buy these if you are never going to miss that money.
Yeah.
Like if you're trying to like budget and I'll skip lunch on Wednesdays and Thursdays, or like the kids don't need that apple in their when they go to school, like don't do that. Like this, like only do this if you have the disposable income for it, because this is not an essential to gaming right now.
Yep.
It's a nice to have, and I would hate to think that anybody out there is basically suffering a quality of life problem because they think they have to have this, have to have it, because it's just not that. Not yet.
But it will rock your world at times.
It will. It absolutely will.
You will have moments with this thing that
find
you've never had
a
before.
friend, like
Yeah.
like,
or maybe just go together.
Yeah.
And maybe you go together, you buy one, and you take turns like using it or whatever, and then you go together again to buy the next one or something. But
and when the fallout of that all breaks
Yeah.
apart, oh, that'd be a great Key and Peele skit.
software, I give it like a C-. Like
I was gonna go C with it. I would be willing to go higher if the pricing wasn't so crazy on some
quantity
of this stuff.
really high.
A lot of stuff.
Maybe the most games ever released for a system
And the
at launch.
good stuff is really good.
Still don't know if I go that far.
And I would say this, although most of it's still too pricey. But I will say this as someone who, to me, VR up to this point has been room scale. Like the room scale stuff on the Vive is the stuff that I play, and my friends have, Benson and those guys have come over and played, and like, this is amazing. That's what they want to play. Nobody wants to sit down and play anything with a controller. Everybody wants to shoot bow and arrows and do all this stuff. And like, neither do I. Even when I'm at home, I'm playing it by myself, I'm like, I don't do sit down stuff with it much. I always stand up and do those room scale stuff.
Yeah.
And like, I gotta say, the PlayStation VR has made me a much bigger believer in the sit down stuff. Because there's nothing on the Oculus store that really made me, even the other sit down stuff I had, like, wasn't really doing it for me so much, because it wasn't that different from just playing it on a screen. But there's some experiences on this that, that platformer would not be the same in any other way to experience. There's no other way to experience that.
I'm just so happy to be this excited about video games again. Mm-hmm. I mean, it has been since like 1996 since I felt like this. Think about that. That's 20 years since I got that crazy charge that I got, like the first time I saw an arcade game, or the first time I had my own system at home, or the first time I saw then polygonal graphics. Like, it's a paradigm. It really is. Like, I've been doing this a long time, and I know when I get like that feeling in my heart about a piece of technology, and I'm getting it from VR. It's.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and even look, the other thing about VR at this point is like, it's so compelling when you actually do it. Like, I feel it pushing me into stupid decisions, because like I played the demo of Eve Valkyrie on the demo disc, and I was like, I'm not paying $60. I was like, I didn't pre-order it. I'm waiting for it to hit Vive so I can buy it on Steam, and I don't have to worry about the Revive thing, because God knows if that's ever going to go away all of a sudden. I can't play the Oculus games anymore, and that sucks. But like, I played the demo of that, which is a really quick dogfight. You launch out of the carrier.
We got to wrap
it
up.
Dogfight.
We're our longest episode ever of GameFace, by the way.
Like, there was a point when I'm playing that where all of a sudden I'm like, maybe I should buy that. It's that point where you look out the side and you look down and you see this giant fleet of all these battle cruisers flying. It's like, this is amazing. Like,
really
you're there.
is.
You are there. Also, whatever. I don't know if it does it automatically, but it assigned me a female pilot. And I looked down and I'm like, whoa. Did not expect that.
All right, that's it. If you have not decided whether you should buy PlayStation VR or not after this conversation, I don't know what to tell you. We just gave you the full download. You will probably not find a conversation like this on PlayStation VR anywhere else. So we hope we've helped you guys in many ways, shapes, and forms. But it's time to get to our trailer of the week. Get the questions in. We're already way over time, so we're only going to answer a few. But our trailer of the week is for a game that I believe has a good shot at becoming RPG of the year, and it's not Final Fantasy 15. This game is called Dragon Quest Builders. Launch trailer.
Arise, legendary builder! Only you have the power to build anything and everything to save the world and its people. This is Dragon Quest Builders. Generations ago, the realm of Alefgard was plunged into darkness by the terrible and treacherous Dragon Lord, ruler of all monsters. Mankind was robbed of the power to build and forced to wander the ruins of their former home, scrounging and scavenging in the dust to survive. But there is still hope. You, a legendary builder, will shake up the mallet in an epic quest to restore the realm. Travel and explore the vast world and discover the true potential you possess as a builder. You will come across great challenges and many powerful foes. But you must keep calm and carry on. Don't let anything stop you. Your imagination and creativity are what Dragon Lord fears the most. Because everything you do brings hope to the people of Alefgard. Gather. Craft. Build! The fate of the world is in your hands. Rebuild the ruined realm. Protect villagers from vile monsters. Carve an emoji into a mountainside. And after you've relaxed in a steamy bath, defeat Dragon Lord once and for all. Build for fun. Build for adventure. Build to save the world! Dragon Quest Builders!
All right, let's get straight to the questions. We don't have any time for jibber jabber. We're way over on the show. Let's see. Here's one from Vox91. Do you feel that games have gotten too exclusionary? If so, what do you think are practical solutions to make it less so? If not, then why or how? Does that mean, like, we've become, like, this elitist club that people feel like they can't become a part of?
I don't know. I don't really know what that means.
Exclusatory, it just means, like, it's excluding
I know what
certain...
exclusionary means. I just don't know how gaming is that.
I don't know. I mean, games have become really complicated.
Well, you just talked about how they're not that complicated because I played something from 2007 and it wouldn't tell me where to go everywhere. And
well, I mean, they've become more user-friendly because they've had to, because they've become more complicated. I feel they have. I mean, you start looking at every game now has, like, crafting and all these systems that you have to, like, look after. It's like, I feel like it has become increasingly difficult to find simple games. Like, for instance, we have a kids channel on Sifted. And so every time we curate something, we have to tag it to all the channels, and it's like, generally kids' games are really simple, something anybody can understand. There aren't that many games anymore that are like that. Like, it ends up being like Skylanders, and like, even those games now are starting to become like really complicated. Like, you can create your own Skylanders and blah, blah, blah. Like,
I don't know if that's particularly complicated for kids that have grown up with an iPad in their hands for their entire lives, though. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I talked about it before, but I gave my old gaming laptop to my niece, who's 8 years old, and I went back.
It's overclocked now.
Almost. Like, I went back and she's done with Spore. She's already got like 4 families working in The Sims 3. She's figured out like one of the RPGs on there. She's like something like 40 hours in a Stardew Valley, which is a game I find too complicated to play.
Yeah.
And this is, I'm like, so apparently the 8-year-old's fine. I don't know if that's who we're worried about, or if we're worried about people who never played games. Like, look, at this point, it's almost like, if you don't play video games, clearly we're never going to get you.
Yeah.
You know? I think that's...
I think the barrier to entry is still a little high. Like, to answer the question, like, I feel like VR could be something.
It could be a thing, you know, because VR is a little similar to, you know, kind of like something where you go to Dave and Buster's and you sit down and play a light gun game, or you sit down and play a racing game or something, and it's a quick little experience. It's not something you have to commit 40 hours to.
Yeah,
and it makes it a social. You know, this is really good, especially with the VR. The Playroom VR is very good at making it a social experience.
Well,
even when one person is in a goggle
Even
outfit.
if it's not asymmetrical, though, just watching someone else play is funny.
Oh, yeah.
Like, when I first started playing, my wife sat there and laughed at me for like 5 or 6. What are you looking at? I'm like, look at the TV. You can see what I'm looking at.
It's one of my favorite parts of having the Vive so far is having people come try it.
Yeah.
It's good.
Because everybody reacts to it. They're like, it's awesome to see. And I think this is something that maybe could break down some barriers, get some new people into the medium, and maybe they graduate on to those more complex games.
I think it has an advantage also in the sense that, like, everyone knows what VR. You know, VR has been like some kind of sci-fi stupid thing for decades now, and like when you see that's almost an advantage of the fact that it looks so stereotypically like a VR head.
Does, yeah.
It looks like something to be hanging off like a Neuromancer cosplay in like 1984.
You're right.
You know, I think that makes people curious. It makes like, okay, I'll try this thing that I've seen in like a bunch of Arnold Schwarzenegger future movies. You know, I'll try this Total Recall thing. Sure, maybe that'll break some barriers down. But like, I don't know. I mean, if you got these games, even like something like Dark Souls sells 2 to 3 million copies, and that's pretty exclusionary by itself. But clearly, it has its audience. I don't know.
Here's Nolan Elric, Shane and Matt. I got the PlayStation VR from a Taco Bell contest. Dude, that's so awesome, man. Somebody actually wins those things. So maybe I am more forgiving, but I love it. Does it also remind you, too, of all those big novelty arcade games, like the G-Lock cabinet that spun around, or light gun games? That is very
that's
arcadey
what I just
feel.
mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me more of those than it does like the original VR that was in the arcade.
Right. Yeah,
where you pull down like this huge periscope and
this is no
play like this.
This is no Dactyl Nightmare.
No.
It is like that. And I'll be honest, not to insult Until Dawn Rush of Blood, but one of the things I kept thinking of when I was playing it was Carnival.
Oh, for sure.
You remember that terrible light gun game? So yeah, I think that's a very valid comparison. But as he says at the end of that, where are the boxing games? That's a good point. Where are the boxing games?
They'll never do that, dude. People will punch each other in the face.
Not multiplayer, but you could do like a super
like
punch out.
Online
Virtual.
Oh yeah, that'd be good.
I don't.
I don't know if you watch some people play Wii Sports against each other,
right? But now you've got in my head like some kind of like weird publicity stunt where like you get two people in VR that can see each other through VR and they're just hitting each other like in the VR.
Right in the helmet.
Oh man.
Justin Horman, what's a mechanic from a game that you think should be copied more in other games? What is one that you think is copied too much?
You know what, obviously because it's fresh in my mind, one of the mechanics that I'm surprised nobody ever steals more is the active reload.
Yeah, from Gears of War.
Yeah, when Gears of War first came out, I thought, everybody's going to do this now.
And that
no
should
one
be
has
copied.
ever done it.
Yeah.
But I think it's a cool thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's probably...
I've asked Cliff that before. I've asked, why didn't more people steal the active reload thing? He's like, I have no idea. It was genius. It was amazing. We were amazing. No, but he's like, I don't know. He's like,
no, it really is a good idea because it rewards people who can stay mentally acute when the crap's hitting the fan.
Yeah, and you have to keep track of your ammo. You have to keep track of when you're going to be reloading because you automatically reload if you run out. I mean, It's a great mechanic. I'm surprised more people don't use it. For things I think like people should give it a rest, probably like gathering herbs to craft stuff.
Just like, crafting in general.
I say that
played.
I say that partly as someone who can't control himself when it comes to picking every damn flower in the field.
Yeah.
So like, you'd save me a lot of time if you'd stop putting that in your games.
I'm just getting tired of it, to be honest with you. Of like, you can't just run around an environment anymore. You have to stop and run your cursor over like everything. It's like. Is changing how I play games. And I did a little bit of this in Virginia as well, because Virginia, how it works is you come into a room and there's just one interactive object. So what you would do is you just walk in, stand still, and just zigzag with your cursor, waiting for it to change and like light up whenever it got on whatever you could interact with. And I feel like that's starting to happen with action-adventure games now, too.
Vox91 clarifies that he was speaking economically in terms of exclusionary.
Oh, is it getting too expensive?
Too expensive.
Gotcha.
With VR, yeah. Overall, I have thought that recently, but
it's not.
Judging by sales, apparently not.
But it's not even. I mean, honestly, if you look at how the price of everything else has gone up over time, over the last 20 or 30 years, video games, we are so lucky because they have not gone up with inflation. Everything else, cars, houses, property, clothes, anything else you can buy, it's all gone up with inflation. But video games have stayed the same. In fact, they're actually cheaper. Like, there were N64 carts that cost like $69.99.
Oh, more than that. I paid $89.99 for Chrono Trigger when that came out, and I paid $99.99 on launch day for Phantasy Star 4 on the Genesis.
And I think, you think about how much entertainment value you get out of $60, like if you're smart with how you buy.
I think the question becomes, though, in the modern game industry, is are they asking you to buy these big ticket purchases too often now? And, you're getting there. If they're going to start expecting people to upgrade the tech, the VR, the console, etc., every 2 years or so, that's a lot of money.
Here's a really good question from the Legacy. Will Sony stop supporting VR like the Vita or Move?
I think that's the
a
big concern.
Really good question. Because the track record is there.
Oh, the track record is definitely there, and I mean, Jim Sterling has brought this up repeatedly. It's like if Sony sees something isn't working, they don't give it the chance to kind of gain its footing and move forward. They drop it like a bad habit, and that's why we have all these unsold Move controllers that are suddenly bundled for $100 now, because they med too many of them because it didn't work, and then they just stepped away from it. When was the last time you saw a game for one of that fucking book thing?
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Remember they spent like 20 minutes of their E3 press conference on that thing, and we never saw it again because no one gave a shit.
Yeah. Remember there was a card battle game with the AR card battle game?
Yeah. I have that. I was that moron. I did that. Yeah.
But
played it twice.
Here's the thing. This bet is way bigger than This is way bigger than Move. This is way bigger than Vita even.
I would like to think just the amount of clear R&D they've sunk into this thing means they'll stick with it for more than a year.
Just the amount of content that they put out for it already.
Yeah.
To me,
I hope
they may. Look, they may.
They might. Yeah.
The Legend, they could bail on it if it's a total flop. I mean, they have to. They can't keep supporting something that completely flops. One, I don't think it's going to completely flop. I think it'll do worse than a lot of people anticipate.
And how fitting that someone named The Legacy asked that question.
Appropriate.
It's in the back of my mind every time I buy one of these things. No question.
Anytime I buy anything but a PlayStation from Sony, it's in the back of my mind. Because I also have a PSP Go sitting at home that, I mean, Sony's track record's not great. I totally get it. I still would say, though, I've already almost got my enjoyment, my money out of this thing. Like, it blew my mind that hard so many times that, like, even if, like, tomorrow they're like, we're done, like, I wouldn't even be that mad at them, I don't think. It's crazy to say, I know, but it's so impactful and it's so different from playing games any other way. Like, even if it did only last a year, I don't even think I'd be all that mad. I think I'd still be more angry at the Wii U. Think about that.
Wii U didn't cost as much.
Yeah, that's true. I think I would still be more mad at the Wii U, though. 2 more questions, and then we got to get out of here. Lots of discussion kicking up.
Oh, where was the one I saw?
Oh, here's one from Vinaraba. After playing PlayStation VR, do you still believe it will be the most successful VR headset?
Yes.
I agree. I think so as well. I think by the end of the year, I think it will have outsold Vive. Vive's at about 1 million right now.
Mm-hmm. I made this prediction a while ago, but I'm guessing 1.3 million PSVRs by the end of the calendar year.
How many?
1.3 million.
There was a thread on Sifted about it, and I guessed way higher than that. But now I regret it. I think I was wrong. I guess like 2.5 million.
I think that's high.
Yeah.
I think you might get that by the end of the fiscal.
I don't think, in hindsight,
I might get that by the end of the fiscal year.
That many.
Yeah, that too.
Joe Thor 84. Shane, will the Pens repeat as Stanley Cup champions?
That's the one I was looking for.
Yes, they will.
Now, do you really believe that, or is that just like a karma thing?
I really believe that they will repeat as Stanley Cup champions for the first time since 98, 99.
How sad is it the Cubs couldn't do what they're doing right now last year in the anniversary of Back to the Future?
It's okay. It's good to see them win.
Yeah, but I'm saying like last year, like that was 2015 is when the Cubs were supposed to win the World Series, and Back to the Future 2, it would have been perfect. Perfect.
All right, we got to go. Man, this has been the longest episode of GameFace ever by a wide margin. Thanks, guys, for sticking around. Obviously, there's still a ton of you in the chat. We really appreciate it. We know it was a long episode. Really hope that we gave you guys a lot of information on PlayStation VR you may not have got anywhere else. That was kind of the whole goal of this episode. Obviously, we talked about other stuff, but this was really what we wanted to get forward to you guys. Once again, thank you for all the support you guys gave me over the last 3 weeks. Life isn't going to be easy for me still, but every little bit of support I get helps, and I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So you guys are awesome. But before we go, we do have one new member of Sifted Elite this week.
Ooh.
Mr. Alcatraz, welcome to Team Green. Thank you so much for your kind donation. We really, really appreciate it. Saturday night, hopefully you guys have been drinking. We probably should have been cracking beers during this episode.
Yeah.
I need a beer. My throat is so dry after doing all that talking, let me tell you. But hope you guys have an excellent weekend. We'll probably be back on Thursday, so you don't have to wait too long. Plus, we have to talk about Mafia and a couple other games that slipped through the cracks here. So we should have plenty of content for a show on Thursday. So expect to see us Thursday around 7 p.m. Pacific. Once again, thanks to everyone who stuck with us on the stream. GameFace is up and out.